Good morning, everyone. This is the August Commission meeting of the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, and if you see us in our casual outfit, we have a casual August. It's a new tradition we've made here.
Only two guys didn't get three didn't get the memo.
Well, they got it. They just can't be casual, that's all.
This is as casual as it gets.
Will you take the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Kern.
Here.
Commissioner Floyd. Here. Commissioner Harper.
Here.
Commissioner Miletus.
Here.
Commissioner Pasek.
Here.
Commissioner Reval.
Here.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Here. Our first order today is the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association update. Jason and Greg, and we didn't have a chance, but we'll figure it out. So, Jason, we'll figure it out when we meet.
He's Greg, I'm Jason.
I know.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, Commissioners. Chair Rosenbaum, thank you so much for having us today. My name is Jason Brandt. I have the pleasure of serving as the President and CEO for the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, and I've been in that role for just over 4 years now. So thank you so much for having us. And just throwing this out there to begin with, we're always more than happy to come down here and have these conversations. I think it's pretty fascinating what's happening in the hospitality industry. There continues to be growth, but it's not without its challenges. So we will look forward to talking through those issues with you during the presentation.
Greg Astley, Director of Government Affairs for the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. I know it says here, state your name, address, and affiliation. So just for the record, 8565 Southwest Salish Lane, Suite 120, Wilsonville, Oregon. Thanks.
All right. Well, kicking it off here, want to talk a little bit about who we are, just to make sure there aren't any assumptions. And I guess before I do that, want to congratulate the Commission and all the work that we've done collaboratively to make sure that we have new identification that's approved here in Oregon. We've had a number of industry members that have been wanting the Nexus and Century cards that are coming here from both Canada and Mexico to be accepted as legitimate identification for the purpose of sale. And that is now accomplished thanks to the work that we've done collectively through the Oregon legislature. So I'd like to thank you all for that work. It's a perfect example of, I think, what we can continue accomplishing together in the future. A little bit about who we are. Go back here. So we have approximately 2,600 members across the state, and our mission is to protect, improve, and promote Oregon's hospitality industry. Currently, there's just over 10,000 food service locations in Oregon, and we also represent the lodging industry as well, of course. It's in the name. We have over 2,000 lodging locations as well in this state. The number below is actually been recently adjusted. We actually have over 200,000 employees now working in the hospitality industry, and that number will be updated again at the close of 2019. Some interesting stats here too about growth that we're expecting. So over 200,000, we're at about 211,000 employees in the industry. That's an 8% growth increase from the previous year in 2017. And then also, we're expected to grow 11.6% or to 237,700 employees by the year 2029. And that's a little surprising to me given all of the changes that we're seeing in the industry. One thing that I think is really fascinating is now, for the first time in the history on the West Coast, the state of California has more counter service restaurants than full service restaurants. And if you think about our experiences that we collectively have traveling around, I think you'll notice that what we're seeing more often now is the new concepts that are actually opening up are mostly counter service models as opposed to full service models. And we can talk more about that as a part of this conversation as well. So that's a little bit about who we are, and I'm going to turn it over to Greg to talk about some of the work that has been going on this past year relating to licenses.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you, Commissioners, again for having us here today. Steve, appreciate being in front of you. One of the things that came out of this legislative session was the increase in the license fee. And I know it hasn't been changed since, I think, Prohibition. Is that correct, Steve? So, just as a quick side note, we had Steve and Will on our podcast the other day talking about some of the issues that'll be out in the next couple of weeks. So we'll make sure you all get a link to that. But we had a great time with them on the show. And we covered quite a bit of this information as well, so I think it's going to be useful for people to hear that from them directly as well. But when it came to this license fee, the increase, we had a lot of members who understand the fact that it needed to be increased, and who have a lot of interest in the option for what would be a 2-year license, something that they wouldn't have to do annually, but given a certain set of circumstances, they'd be able to every 2 years just apply for that license. We understand that the fee would be the same per year, but we know there would be exceptions. This kind of language has come up in the past. For example, if someone had an infraction or was a first-time applicant, those would be the kinds of things that we would say you'd have to do it for an annual basis, at least for the first couple of years, to make sure that we've got a good track record for you. But we want to work together with our local government partners. We think this is actually a win for them as well. So for the City of Ontario, for example, if they were doing the paperwork every 2 years rather than every year, it's going to save them time and money as a government entity as well. And we all know that they're in a situation where they need to do that. So we do have a lot of members, like I said, who have asked about this. In particular, I'll point out we have one here in the Portland area. They have 7 independent restaurants and bars that have licenses. They're separate entities. So for them, instead of doing this every year, they could do it every other year, which means instead of 14 applications every 2 years, they're cutting that in half. And time is money, and for small businesses, as Jason's mentioned, some of the challenges that the restaurants and bars go through, this can be a huge time and money saver. So we appreciate that.
Okay. Well, one of the interesting things that we've seen that we want to make sure we have a conversation about is just the opioid epidemic that we have in our country. Nothing specific to Oregon, but some stats here that I just want to make sure are front and center for us. One of the things that we have seen is an increase in lawsuit liability relating to bars and taverns. And in a lot of cases, we're concerned that it could have something to do with the state of a consumer consuming something, whether it's pills or whether it's edibles, before they walk into a bar, but the actual time for that drug to impact their system doesn't take place until maybe 1 or 2 beers in when they're actually at the bar. So if you play that scenario out, it can create increased liability for our folks that are out there in our industry, and we're really encouraging them to increase the level of documentation so that if something changes when someone's having 1 beer, from the time they have the 1 beer to the second beer, and they notice a significant change beyond just the consumption of that second beer, to make sure that that scenario is well documented. We're not seeing it at a level that gives us widespread concern yet, but it's enough of a concern to bring it to your attention today. We actually do have some lawsuits that are out there right now that are active, whereby our members are being sued by someone that maybe was assaulted by another customer that was in a situation where they were digesting something that had nothing to do with what they consumed on the premises of the location. So trying to figure out how we track that is a considerable challenge. I'm here identifying a problem for you without a concrete solution. And I just want you to know that I think we all need to be aware of the problem as a first step. And I would love to hear examples or ideas for how we can address this in the future. So just again, to explain that example, if someone's in a parking lot before they walk into a bar, or they're hanging out with their friends at home before they go to a bar, they consume opioids or edibles, and then the actual time at which that impacts their system doesn't take effect for 90 minutes, and they've already consumed a beer. At this point, we have deep concern that our members, our industry, are fully liable for that situation, even though they had nothing to do with the consumption prior to the arrival at the bar. So just some of the stats here I'll walk through. 1.7 million substance use disorders in the United States in the year 2017. 1 in 5 people receive prescription opioids long-term for non-cancer pain. And every day in our country, we have 1,000 people who are treated in emergency rooms for misuse. So again, the issue of visibly intoxicated persons and making sure that our members and our industry have increased levels of documentation in case something takes a turn outside of the amount of alcohol they've directly served to that customer.
So one of the surprising factors that we had in our statewide hearings, really surprising, is that we thought that social consumption issue on the marijuana hearings would be a topic of interest and conversation throughout the state. And we've got absolutely no response from anybody. No matter where you go across the state, we've got very little, if none, really. I mean, nobody seemed to be interested one way or another. So here you're presenting us with a problem with a very difficult solution. Can I assume at this point that the association would not be in favor of social consumption? Or, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
No, I wouldn't say that we're against social consumption. I think
because
we're.
that's gonna add another problem to the problem you already given us in front of us.
Sure, that's fair. That's a fair question and comment. I would say that we have a partial solution that we're proposing today that we'll talk about as a part of this presentation. It's not the end-all be-all solution, but I think it does take us in the right direction in terms of, in a collaborative way, being responsible for the reality of what social consumption represents and how it intersects with our industry. I'm surprised that we haven't seen any comments from folks on the roadshow. That is a little surprising because we are aware of numerous lawsuits. Maybe that's a confidentiality issue if those are active lawsuits, but there are some examples within our industry right now where we have a member or a few members that are having to defend themselves in a court case because of the physical decisions that someone made in the bar, and that person consumed opioids or edibles before coming to the bar. And so, but that person is suing the bar for an assault accusation, an assault that actually took place on premise.
Yeah, that's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm
Okay.
trying to get at is, have you heard from any of your members that they would be interested in creating, by way of illustration, a separate room off, beside the restaurant, totally separate from the bar and so forth, to have social consumption of marijuana as in a party or whatever? I mean, is there any interest in any of that?
Well, we haven't asked that question directly in any of our regional meetings, but we have 8 coming up in the next 2 months, and we certainly can. I think there is interest in that for a certain segment of the hospitality industry. Those that are entrepreneurial, that are interested in finding ways to access the new freer market when it comes to social consumption. If there's a way to keep it safe and secure and not have situations where there's crossover that endangers the lives of others, I think there are those in the industry that would expand a business model to include social consumption if that were to become legal down the road. Of course, we're seeing some experiments with that in San Francisco and elsewhere. So we're kind of in a wait-and-see mode right now and watching some of our counterparts in other parts of the state and other cities that are considering those types of new regulations at the local level before we're entertaining any type of statewide proposal. So with that, I will turn it over to Greg for the next slide.
Thank you. So one of the things that we've talked about is the alcohol server's license. You take the same test when you first get your alcohol server's license as you do 5 years later when you want to go in and get it renewed. And we'd like to see some advanced training for those folks who have been doing this for 5 years. There are opportunities, as Jason just mentioned, that we can take advantage of to get some training for folks to identify some of the things that we're dealing with now in the bars and restaurants, whether it be the opioids or the edibles. But also, after 5 years as a bartender, or really in any position, you would hope that there would be more knowledge that would be there that we could test them on. And hopefully there's some advanced training that would come along with that. So we'd like to see a new comprehensive alcohol server renewal training. We've had some discussions around that. We don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but we appreciate the opportunity to talk about it and see what we can do to improve both the position of folks who are serving alcohol and the training and safety aspects to make sure that everybody is doing everything that they can.
I've only been around here for a little while, but one of the biggest problems I see in reading the complaints all the time is that there's really not an adequate job of doing or explaining, not so much the restaurant owners, but people with alcohol licenses where they serve, is that people need permits in order to serve alcohol. I mean, it comes, there's got to be a better job in doing that, because I I think every third complaint is that people don't have a permit and they're serving for 6 months or 7 months, and I'm getting tired of reading it.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a great opportunity to figure out better ways to collaborate in promoting that reality to the industry, and make sure that you go through the education training that's required by law before you serve alcohol. And, in addition to that, as Greg pointed out, we feel like once you do go through that training, 5 years down the road, you're at a much different place as a professional working in the industry with your alcohol server permit. And instead of having that person at the 5-year mark take the training they took 5 years prior, why not use that opportunity to give them a different training that's more comprehensive, that provides more in-depth opportunities for how restaurant facilities and bars and taverns can actually spot issues that are going on in our society. I mean, there's real issues as it relates to the date rape, drug trafficking along highway corridors throughout the country. Bartenders can be in a position to spot activity that is questionable, and we can lead the way in this state by taking a training that, instead of the training that they already have taken before, we're not asking that our members or that the industry spend more time doing a new training, but finding a way to make a new training about the same length of time, but more comprehensive and in-depth, and different from what they took 5 years before. So an advanced training, if you will, if they're planning on staying in the industry.
I have a question. So there's a lot of small businesses that are involved in the technological piece of training. How many conversations have you had with these companies in regards to your idea of increasing their either questions or changing anything in regards to education, in regards to a server's permit?
Yeah, Commissioner, very few. I would say that at this point it was a brainstorming idea that we wanted to bring to this body first, but we do have pretty significant partnerships with technology companies that could take us down a road to create an in-depth training product that covers the subject areas that we feel are most important, regardless of what those would be. So we're confident that we have the ability to put it together.
So I expect you to talk to those companies first. I mean, it's nice that you have, what they say, members.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
A lot of other businesses that are involved with the permitting of staff to serve alcohol. So please take due notice that, talking to those people that are already in the system, and they would probably be very open to receiving either new questions or a new curriculum in regards to what's happening in 2020 versus what happened in 1929. So, I mean, it's incredible that your company will do that for us.
Certainly.
Absolutely, yeah, we're happy to do that. And thank you for the comment. And then just some general restaurant information here to wrap up. We use this statement a lot, and we're actually working on something called the Receipt Project in Oregon, where we're encouraging food service operators to share this statement. Nationally, an average of 95 cents of every dollar customers spend goes into the food, employees, and place. That is a fact. Another fact, the average consumer thinks the average restaurant makes 20 to 40% profit on sales. And you can imagine that type of misperception leads to a lot of misunderstanding and conversation about what our industry can actually absorb and sustain the operation. A few of you on this commission know exactly what I'm talking about working in the industry, and we just have to do a better job getting the information out on this. Why do we all know that it's safer to fly in an airplane than drive in a car? That didn't happen by accident. That's the airline industry making sure that those that are going from point A to point B understand the reality of their world and are accurately and effectively communicated with. So a very important reality for us, and I mentioned the changes in the industry across the West Coast in particular between full service and counter service restaurants. A lot of people don't understand how tip credits work, but just to make sure we're clear on that, 43 states in our country have what's called a tip credit, which means that if you're a server and you're making tip income, there's an adjustment that can be made for how your compensation works to account for the tip income. So, for example, in Oregon, if we picked up a restaurant that Greg and I owned and we moved it to Texas, we could hire 4 servers in Texas for the price of 1 server in Oregon. So we have tens of thousands of employees in Oregon that count as minimum wage employees that are not making minimum wage. That is creating a lot of undue pressure for the full service model. That's one of the reasons why we're seeing more migration away from full service and more towards counter service, so that there can be more equity inside the walls of the restaurant between those working in the back of the house, creating the meal, and those serving the meal in the front of the house. Right now, there's significant discrepancy and inequity between the wages that full-time 40-hour plus workers make as sous chefs and cooks in the back, and the compensation that servers make in the front in a part-time role. So in a lot of cases, the folks in the back are working more, making less. And that's a concern to us as an association. So we talk a lot about our world is a game of pennies. It's not a game of dollars. And we just, we need more folks to walk alongside us in understanding that reality. So just an example here to finish up, some new regulations that our industry is grappling with currently: paid sick leave, ongoing minimum wage escalations, the Oregon scheduling law if you're a certain size of employment base, the Oregon Saves Retirement Program and the paperwork that comes along with that, Oregon's new paid family leave system, which will go into effect in a few years, and the list goes on. So our regional meetings, when we go around the state having these conversations, is making sure that a lot of our folks that are so busy working in their business understand the realities of these laws and are in full compliance so that they can stay in business. And with that, we'll be happy to entertain any questions. And again, just really appreciate the opportunity to be before you today. Thank you for the time, and we'll do it again soon, hopefully.
Chair Roosevelt.
Any questions?
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. I would ask that you have some caution with the employees of the industry in the area of identifying individuals who have consumed other items prior to coming into your organization. And I say that because, and you'll need to get the legislature involved in this situation on a liability standpoint. You have advocates who want police officers to be psychiatrists now. If you place your servers in the position of trying to recognize an abuse of another item and then try to determine whether or not they're more intoxicated or have a change of behavior, you're now asking that individual to become a psychiatrist and a therapist, somebody's mother, somebody's father.
Mm-hmm.
Those type of situations lead to a lack of responsibility on the part of those who have consumed. So if you're going to come to us and say you want our help in those areas because of the liability issues that are surround that, I'm going to ask that you have your members advocate those same positions to the legislature,
Mm-hmm.
so that when those issues come up, they're dealt with prior to going to a court of law, because we all know that once it gets to the court, who knows what the heck will go on. So,
Commissioner, I agree with you. Yeah, we
But-
absolutely have to get the legislature involved, and we would be happy to bring our members to that process.
because I don't want your people who serve to try to become advocates for mental health.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
Chair. I just want to thank Jason, Greg. I want to thank you so much for your tireless work at Orla. As you've pointed out, there's a lot of critical issues facing restaurants these days, critical issues, and we're seeing a lot of our counterparts go out of business, cash in their chips and close their doors right now because of a lot of these issues. And specifically, just to give you an idea, where our business is, just along the street that we're located, we've had six restaurants close their doors within a year time frame. 6 restaurants, because they cannot weather this, I call it, over-regulatory storm right now that we're dealing with.
Mhm.
They cannot survive it. It's very, very challenging. And Orla does a phenomenal job of keeping the industry abreast to these issues, as well what's coming down the pike. And I just want to emphasize, I can't stress enough the importance of Orla and what you are to the industry. And I want to thank you for this good stuff that you shared with us this morning.
Thank you.
It's very important.
Thank you
you,
for your
Commissioner.
service.
We have, here at state, we have minimums for liability limits for businesses these offices in regards to the potential changes that could occur due to liability lawsuits within your business?
We're not planning on proposing any changes to that, no, sir.
And would you propose that people that have service permit also have liability protection so that they could defer the cost from the business owner to themselves?
We would not be advocating for that either.
Okay, so in effect, you know, I've been around for a long time. We've seen a lot of cases in regards to what's happening in the industry. One of the concerns I have is actually cleanliness. And so I would hope that you could address the need for, as a state, when we go as a customer into a restaurant, have some type of code in regards to how there's an expectation that there should be a role in your organization based upon maybe getting some type of an award, clean place, or something where we can really promote it.
Yeah.
And especially not only in the restaurant business, but also in lodging, which is really great because New York has a lot of bed bugs. So I just wanted to bring that up while you both were here. And I'm excited. We have two commissioners that are in it to win it in regards to what you do. I'm just an advocate for the average person on the street, and they probably want me to ask that question. So I had to throw it out there. We have a lot of new distilleries and beer coming in, and you're right. You know, these servers, they're not looking at, as Commissioner Laval said, looking at psychoanalyzing people. And, you know, we do know people pop another pill, but the relationship you have with our law enforcement, local law enforcement, has just been fantastic. So I, again, want to applaud you for being here and opening my eyes to getting into your world. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Great job, guys. This is, as always, it's really helpful, how you guys represent a very vital part of the Oregon economy, something that we as a state excel at, and the organization has been a fantastic advocate for those businesses. And you know, one thing about the restaurant, alcohol, hospitality industry, it's a homegrown industry. It's one that we as Oregonians can and should be proud of and should protect, and this body especially has a really influential role on, and your guys' partnership is unbelievably valuable, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jason, will you get a hold of me? Sorry, we didn't have a chance beforehand.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Oregon wine industry, Tom?
Thank you. Good morning.
We've been seeing a lot of each other lately.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised you kept us on the agenda, quite frankly.
There's no fires.
Well, this isn't going away. You might as well.
Well,
come
we're
and talk
glad
to
to be
us.
part of your casual August celebration, so thank you for the invitation. Chair Rosenbaum, Director Marks, and Commissioners, thank you for the invitation to come back to you. For the record, my name's Tom Danowski, Oregon Wine Growers Association. I'm joined at the table by Jana McCamey, Vice President of the Oregon Wine Growers Association, and by Justin King, co-owner of the King State Winery in South Lane County, and also a volunteer member of our Oregon Wine Growers Association Board of Directors. I want to make sure that I, as Jason did before me, thank the commissioners who made the extended effort and grueling investment of time to participate in the listening session that took you to 4 different parts of Oregon to hear from our grower and winemaking colleagues. I also want to make a special acknowledgement of Director Marks, who came to our annual membership meeting for the Wine Growers Association earlier this year and came to our industry symposium, which included not only our members, but hundreds of other growers and winemakers. And that effort and visibility really helps kind of demystify and also personalize the commission to our community. So that effort is appreciated and acknowledged. We're here today at the invitation that was extended about a year ago, and we were here and we were asked to come back periodically and offer an update on the industry and its activities. At that time, certainly nobody anticipated the kind of year that we have had that is unfolded. And in many ways, there was tremendous learning and great dialogue that this past year's events have spawned. We're gonna touch a little bit on that. However, one kind of amusing way to look at it was kind of summarized by one of our lawmakers who was reflecting on the legislative session, and they said it was a reminder that maybe instead of having 90 lawmakers meet in extended session every 2 years, we should have 2 lawmakers meeting every 90 years. And so we certainly had our share of excitement in Salem, and you got a little bit of flavor of that on your listening tour. Thank you. Our agenda for today, we want to answer some of the questions that you probably have and help you put in perspective some of what you heard on the listening tour. Talk about some opportunities where we heard you loud and clear that the industry needs to do some self examination and some kind of refereeing of our own disputes. We've tried to anticipate some of the most obvious questions, and as we go through our presentation, I'm sure you'll let us know if you have others. So we'll go ahead and dive in. Just to give a sense of our industry, I think this dashboard will help give you a flavor. We're a little unique compared to our colleagues in other states. Not California so much, but certainly in the Pacific Northwest, our industry is somewhat unique in the breadth and span of our wine grape growing regions. In Washington State, for example, almost the entire industry is in that warm, dry, arid eastern part of the state. In Oregon, however, our 19 growing regions span warmer climates, cool climates, east, west, north, south. It's a really diverse set of constituencies. I would also say that going through the listening tour and hearing and listening to the conversations that you all participated in, it was a reminder that, like you, we are also a statewide organization. We have members all over, constituencies all over. We work closely with a number of regional groups, but we share and feel your pain when you're trying to reconcile regional interests with statewide imperatives as well. One of the things that, as I mentioned, distinguishes Oregon just a little bit from some other regions, certainly our colleagues in Washington State, who I'll refer to occasionally because unlike California, Washington State is somewhat comparable in scope and scale of the wine business to Oregon. Although they are about 3 times our size in grape tonnage, there are some important similarities. The distinction that is drawn is worth underscoring between what is an appellation, a geography that a winery can put on its labels, versus an AVA, an American Viticultural Area. To be an AVA, you must provide geological, climatological, soils, topographic maps, soils profiles. All of that goes to the Department of Treasury's Tobacco and Trade Tax Bureau, where it's digested for about 2 years, and coming out the other side of it, you hope to be the beneficiary of a new viticultural area designation. Those are prized assets and important currency in our business. A wine that says Napa Valley or Willamette Valley has tremendous value. We see that in sale prices, and we see that when wine critics talk about our business. AVAs are, however, quite different from political and administrative designations that can also be on labels, things like counties and states. We could walk into any elementary school, pull down a map, and we'd see counties and states on there. Wineries are able to label with counties and states. AVAs are a special distinction, and they're very, very important, and you heard that, I'm sure, on your listening tour. Oregon has 19 of them now, and there are a few more in process. What's also important is that typically wines from viticultural areas that are clearly designated and usually very finite in area, typically those wines can command higher prices than something with just a state designation. Not always, but many times. So these AVAs certainly deserve our protection, and that's one of the important areas where we continue to help our regional colleagues around the state find the best way to protect these assets. I want to just move on before I pass the mic over and just talk about where Oregon is positioned currently in the global environment for fine wine. There's 3 things I want to touch on that illustrate and underscore the tremendous enthusiasm and energy in the marketplace for Oregon wines. We're somewhat unique in Oregon's agricultural sector in that our products are reviewed by judges who swirl, sniff, and spit and give 100-point scores. And those scores are taken quite seriously in magazines like The Wine Spectator. And as a result of publications like that, the world gets to find out about Oregon wines that can sometimes be hard to find. We get a quote like the one on the right-hand side of this screen, and that is absolutely bulletproof, because Oregon's position as part of the American wine situation is worth noting. U.S. wine production is about 10% of global wine production. Oregon is about 1% of American production. So we're 1% of 10%. We euphemistically call ourselves a region of discovery, because when you're small, we need to find a way to spin it correctly. What's great is that the market is coming to us, and when we get quotes like this from important publications, it underscores critical acclaim, which is so important. While not every consumer in America who drinks wine reads these kinds of magazines, important fine wine retailers and important restaurateurs do, and they help us really kind of snowplow out ahead of the wineries. To give you a flavor of how the consumer is viewing Oregon, here's a snapshot of the Nielsen data. This reflects wine moving across store scanners all over the country in all kinds of different retail formats. And what it suggests is something that my colleagues in other wine regions around the country envy all the time, a growth rate for Oregon that's 14 times the national average. This is really important. This is consumer behavior-driven demand. And as we see in so many categories, supply will chase demand. Building demand is very difficult, and Oregon is moving in the right way. It's why we get the attention we get. That Wine Spectator quote, where we were called the most dynamic region, also expresses itself in another way, beyond just consumer demand. Investors are very interested in Oregon. I could have put up 5 or 6 slides that would have illustrated the tremendous interest that investors and private individuals have in acquiring Oregon vineyard land and wineries. They see a chance to make exceptional wine. They see a chance to make a reasonable profit, be part of a vibrant community, and tap into that kind of consumer pull-through that the Nielsen data just underscored. That attracts investment, but it's another example of dynamism. The last point I'll make on this notion of demand is demand from out-of-state wineries who are eager to get Oregon fruit. This gives you a snapshot of the amount of tons that have gone out of state from Oregon over the past 5 years. You can see an acceleration and then just a little bit of leveling off last year in 18, largely because it obscures some growth that might have happened had some grapes not been affected by fire smoke. What's important, though, is that you're talking about 20% of our state's crop is going to out-of-state wineries. And while that might seem like an area of concern, those grapes going out of state enable a lot of our growers to make ends meet, and it allows wine grapes to go to partners in other states who are able to make Oregon-labeled products and push those to the marketplace and serve and stimulate that kind of demand that I'm talking about.
See, this chart, I believe a hell of a lot more than anything Nielsen comes out with. I can't help that.
Chair Rosenbaum, you're hitting on a really important point that we get when we talk about Nielsen data. It is imperfect in many ways. It does not capture the tremendous amount of restaurant sales. We use it directionally only to show.
It's the only thing you can use.
It's the only thing we can show, and it does show consumer behavior in a true freedom of choice environment. Imagine yourself standing in front of a wine shelf. There is an amount of choice and selection that is unlike almost any other category in any store. It's a tremendously overwhelming thing to the consumer. So when Oregon has that kind of momentum in that kind of a cluttered environment, it does really underscore consumer demand. So I've talked about consumer demand, I've talked about investor demand, a little bit about demand for our grapes. My last point is just to give you a little bit of a flavor for how the Oregon Wine Board uses the $2 million in tonnage tax that the OLCC collects on our behalf. To step back just a little bit, Oregon's $25 per ton tax is about 36 years old this year. It is levied half on the grower who provides the grapes, and half of the 25 is due from the winery crushing those grapes. We are, unlike some other states, there's no consumer tax here on wine. The producer tax coming to the Oregon Wine Board from the OLCC, The producer tax funds the industry growth. It's the industry investing in its own future. Last couple of points I'll make about that is that you can see the areas that we spend that money in. By statute, the Oregon Wine Board, founded about 16 years ago, is supposed to be investing in scientific research to help growers grow better grapes and help winemakers make better wines. Scientific research is an important area. Communications is our media relations outreach, getting the kinds of writers that I've talked about to come to Oregon as part of our communications charter. Marketing efforts. I think you got a copy of our Oregon Wine Touring Guide, an 80-page, 4-color piece of work that is one of the best ads we have for Oregon tourism, which by itself, Oregon's wine tourism economy is generating $787 million in revenue here in state. On top of the other wages and things that go on in production, wine tourism alone is $787 million.
So when you mean by wine tourism, you mean people coming into the various farms to taste
People
and-
visiting vineyards and winery tasting rooms and coming and who make wine and a visit to wine country, any one of our 19 grape growing areas.
So the 737 million is lodging as well as everything else?
787 in total wine tourism economic impact. It's tourism, it's restaurant activity, it's other things, other activities that they do.
How do you
Buying wine in tasting rooms.
How do you get to that number?
It's from our Oregon Wine Economic Impact Study done by a company called Full Glass Research that is on our website. And in fact, it'll be renewed about this time next year. We take a snapshot every 3 years, and I'm happy to provide that. It's publicly available.
Yeah.
We break down all of Oregon's $5.6 billion in total economic impact into the key sectors. And one of the key sectors is the wine tourism economy.
Can you send it to all of us?
Happy to do that, you bet. I need to yield the floor here to my colleagues, and I'll turn the microphone over to Jana McCamey.
Good morning, Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Janet McCamey, and I'm Vice President with the Oregon Wine Growers Association. You've heard about two organizations here, one called the Oregon Wine Board and one called the Oregon Wine Growers Association. Now, if you don't understand all the distinctions, welcome to the club. It takes folks a master's degree to really separate out the differences between these organizations, but we've created this slide in order to elucidate some of those differences. So Tom outlined the funding mechanism for the Oregon Wine Board, which is primarily the tonnage tax, in addition to 2 cents from the privilege tax. And they're mandated in statute to focus on marketing Oregon wine, viticulture, enology, business research, and education. In contrast, the Oregon Wine Growers Association is a traditional trade association for the industry, and we are funded by our membership dues. So not everyone in the industry is a part of the Oregon Wine Growers Association, in contrast to the Oregon Wine Board, since every grower winery is paying part of that tonnage tax. And our work focuses on state and federal legislative and regulatory advocacy, and really keeping our members up to date on all the changes happening in the regulatory landscape so that they can stay in compliance. So for the Oregon Wine Growers Association, our organization was founded in 1980, but in fact, there were a few groups, one in Southern Oregon and one in the Willamette Valley, starting in the mid-1960s when the industry was founded. And those two groups came together to create a statewide association which would represent the interests of the industry and work on important pieces of legislation and regulation that could help the industry grow and advance. We have 300 plus members a year. We have businesses of all types and sizes. Now, in contrast to our friends to the north and south, they have separate grower and winery organizations. Here in Oregon, we've maintained one organization that works for the interests of both our growers and our wineries, large and small, from all parts of the state. We have members in 18 of 19 AVAs.
What's the
Tom
one
talked about the AVAs.
What's the one you're missing? Just out of curiosity.
Red Hills, Douglas County, which there, as what we know, is one grower there. So
We're going to get them, Chair.
we're gonna get them. That's our
I
goal.
was just curious.
Even
Yes.
if we have
I
to
thought
start
it
a
might-
business there and join ourselves, we're going to
Yes.
do it.
I thought it might be the rocks, but
We'll get 'em.
No, we do have a good number of members from the Rocks, which is a growing important region in eastern Oregon. We have a 9-member board of directors, and these 9 board members are the same board members that the Oregon Wine Board has. Now, our members have the opportunity to approve those board directors, but they are, for the wine board, appointed by the governor. But for efficiency and the great overlap between the organizations, the board is shared, and it's been that way since 2003 when the wine board was established and was decided by the industry as the most efficient way to manage the board for the Oregon Wine Growers Association. We have 3 advisory committees that are made up of members from around the state, and those committees help provide recommendations to our board on important policy and membership issues. And as I mentioned, it includes representation from around the state so that we try to get as much input into our decision making as we can. A big priority that has emerged for us, particularly this last year in light of events, is really ensuring that there's a level playing field for all producers in the state. And this means that wherever grapes are being crushed and wine is being made, we want to ensure that there's adherence to the same wine labeling, content, and taxation rules and laws as Oregon producers are required to follow. So we're looking at this as a fairness issue, and that's why we sought through Senate Bill 112, which is related to the tonnage tax that funds the Oregon Wine Board, to also require out-of-state producers to be responsible for paying their $12.50 of that $25 a ton tax that goes to fund the joint marketing and research that benefits the whole industry. And you also, I think, have learned a lot about the labeling and content rules that we have here in Oregon. I know we received some great handouts that were prepared by OLCC staff. And I'm sure that you have access to those. It's a very complex area, but really important to our industry here in Oregon. Now, at the federal level, the TTB, which Tom mentioned, they set standards for labeling and content for the nation, but Oregon and our industry in the OLCC more than 40 years ago established the strictest standards anywhere in the US. And so if Oregon is going to be on the label, it has to be 100% Oregon grapes. If an American viticultural area is referenced, it has to be 95% from that AVA. And many varietals like Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, others have to be 90% from that varietal, and it's quite a bit lower at the federal level. And this has really provided the underpinning for the quality reputation that our industry has earned and really helped us arrive on the global stage where we are now. So it's important to understand the context of those rules and the duration that they've been in place and what an important role they've played in our industry over the last 40 years, and that they deserve to be enforced and protected. So that really is our priority, making sure that we are promoting a level playing field for all producers. Now, we made it through a 6-month legislative session, which I know was very difficult for a lot of different groups, and the atmosphere in general was very divisive. We didn't escape that. We have a number of next steps that we are looking at as an organization. Again, you know, we have been the statewide organization representing our members on issues for decades. There are, you know, other interests in our industry that are coming together too and need to be part of these conversations. So we're planning industry stakeholder meetings before harvest, which will start in September, and post-harvest to continue these conversations around these issues that came up during the session. We want to partner with industry groups both here in the state and also states where grapes are being sent to be made into wine, and the OLCC to help educate about these important labeling, content, and tax rules and laws. And thirdly, we also anticipate working closely with OLCC staff on implementation of Senate Bill 112 around tonnage tax collection and finding the most efficient mechanism for doing so, so we're using funds efficiently. So we really appreciate the partnership with OLCC and look forward to working closely together. Thanks to Steve, Renee, and Kelly for all of their great work with us throughout the session, and want to express our appreciation for your partnership and support going forward.
If I could just, before I turn it over to Justin, Chair Rosenbaum, if I could just amplify one or two points that were made and that may have come up or caused question perhaps on your listening tour. When I mentioned that the United States is about 10% of global wine production and that Oregon is 1% of American wine production, I mentioned that we're sort of have an outsized reputation relative to what you'd expect for a region that's 1% of American wine production. I mentioned our Nielsen numbers. I mentioned how we're attracting outside investment and how out-of-state winemakers want to come here. There's a powerful reputation. I want to underscore a couple points. When I put the Wine Spectator up there, I should have also mentioned that every year they publish a summary of which wines from which regions had got their 90-point, most coveted 90-point score or higher during the year. Oregon, while representing 1% of American wine production, Oregon had 20% of America's most highest rated wines. That's another reason why often when you'll stand in front of a shelf, Oregon wines seem a little bit more expensive than some of their competitors. But that quality is clearly recognized. And it's a result of the kinds of labeling laws and winemaking standards that those have, are attached to those labeling laws. I know coming in sometimes to the wine industry from another sector, wow, these rules and these requirements can look incredibly confusing, very fine detail, granularity baked into them. But they are important, and as you experienced and as was just touched on, we need to do some work within our industry to talk about how to best preserve those 42-year-old labeling laws that have helped Oregon establish the reputation that I've talked about today. We're committed to that. They also reflect one other area where we're going to come to an agreement as an industry. It might take us a little time, but it's a very important area of agreement where we need to seek understanding from each other. And that's that these American viticultural areas, they're important not just as a signal of where the grapes are grown. We're often asked, why can't I just come to Oregon, buy some grapes, make the wine wherever, and put Oregon on the label, or put McMinnville, or Rogue Valley? Why can't I do that? It's because the way our marketplace works, an AVA, especially in Oregon, where standards are higher than are required federally, an AVA, or the word Oregon, Jana mentioned, to carry Oregon, a wine must be 100% Oregon. You can get by with a slightly lower standard in Washington State, and that's not to denigrate them at all. It's just to say, by a point of comparison, there isn't a 100% standard in our neighboring state, as one example. There is in California. But the AVA, or the state name on a label, in a state like ours, where standards are higher than federally, the geography is more than just where the grapes were grown. It's a contract with your consumer and your customer that those wines were made to those higher standards and they've been fulfilled and respected. And that's why AVAs are so critical. It's more than just where the grapes were grown, and the marketplace requires that we come to agreement on that, and we're going to.
Tom, I appreciate that. Collectively, as a commission, I don't talk on behalf of any other commissioner, but this time I think I can. We all know what a gem this industry is and how important it is. We're all here to help. And, at the risk of repeating myself at least 50 times, we're gonna sit on the porch until you guys get your shop in order. We're here to help you, and there's gotta be an agreement. I mean, everything you said, we're in complete agreement with you. The question is you gotta be in agreement, when you come back to us, we have to be at a point saying, okay, let's go to work on it.
Thank you for that, Chair Rosenbaum.
I mean, it's just as simple as all that. I think I feel very comfortable talking for the whole commission on this.
Thank you for that, Chair Rosenbaum. I think we would agree, and I think those sentiments would be echoed by a number of lawmakers that we deal with who will be part of the meetings that were just touched on that we're having in September. We understand the work that we need to do. We feel your support behind us, and we accept the responsibility that you've given us.
Yeah, and one other thing, Steve, I'm thinking out loud on it. Are you gonna be at these meetings with the legislature, or will?
These are industry meetings taking place on the 4th and 5th of September. We're happy to send Steve. We've just set these up the last couple of days. We're trying to flex around our community's harvest window.
Well, I think not only Steve, but I think maybe one of the commission or two of the commission members should be there just so that we can stay in touch.
Thank you for that,
I'll
Chair
leave that up to
Rosenbaum.
you.
We'll share that with you, Director Marks. Thank you. Happy to have you. Turn it over to my colleague, Justin.
Sorry about that, Justin.
No, not at all. I'm going to be probably repeating a few things that my colleagues here have mentioned thus far. But Chair Rosenbaum, Director Marks, Commissioners, thanks for making time to speak with us today. What we see today in our industry is a community navigating challenges associated with having become a top-performing category in the American wine market. Our products have drawn attention and investment to Oregon from around the globe, and our success is the result of nearly 60 years of crafting world-class wines produced to higher standards than anywhere else in the nation. Those exceptional standards remain the benchmark all wineries in or out of state must meet in order to earn the right to label their wines Oregon. In the world of wine, place matters and has both emblematic and material value. This year, roughly 20%, or about 18,000 tons of Oregon wine grapes were sold out of state, primarily to California companies. Some of these companies truck the fruit or bulk juice across state lines, where it becomes possible to create products under entirely different winemaking regulations than those that exist here in Oregon. These products are then labeled and presented to consumers in the national marketplace as if they were no different than any other Oregon wine. The economic advantage of producing wines under lower content standards, content and labeling standards, can be significant. And many in our industry are concerned that Oregon's hard-earned reputation is being exploited in order to sell products that may not meet the same standards Oregon wineries are legally obligated to. To make matters more difficult, that very same 18,000 tons of fruit, Oregon fruit, sold out of state represents critical income for many growers, particularly in our southern AVAs, where the number of vineyards far exceed the number of wineries able to absorb the high volume of fruit grown there. The recent industry listening sessions led by the OWA, it became clear many growers felt they would struggle to sell their fruit if it were not for out-of-state buyers. We also heard that some of these buyers threatened to stop purchasing fruit if new regulations were passed, or even if existing regulations were more strongly enforced. It is important we recognize that Oregon grape growers bear no responsibility for the actions of producers that they sell to. They have fulfilled their obligation by producing some of the best wine grapes in America, and they have no ability to ensure out-of-state companies follow Oregon's content and labeling laws or pay our tonnage tax. Any fault in the practices of out-of-state producers cannot be laid at the feet of our growers. We need to deal with the abuses of our content and labeling laws, but we also need to support our growers and ensure a regulatory environment where their businesses can thrive. In order to move forward, we must have industry-wide understanding of these issues. We can then work in a collegial spirit to develop solutions that protect the equity of brand Oregon while providing the greatest benefit to the greatest number of our industry. I believe the collaborative and supportive culture that has long defined the Oregon wine industry will prevail. We will need a strong partner in the OLCC to help us coalesce around solutions that strengthen our industry from grower to winery, from north to south. Thank you.
Chair Rosenbaum. Mike Tyson once said that when he got into the ring, the person across from him thought everything was going great until I smacked him in the mouth. Your organization and your industry has a lot of work to do, and the clock is ticking. One of the areas that concerns me is that if we step up in that ring and the Fed smacks us in the mouth, we have a problem. It's great to have all the rules that we want and protecting. My wife and I were at dinner last night at an Italian restaurant, and she says, "What do you want to have, the Italian wines or the Oregon wines?" I said, "You got to be kidding me, woman." It wasn't the Italian wine. the issues that we're facing is that we need more help from your organization and from the state, is that the feds don't know what they're doing. And so if they approve things for New York, or God forsake Missouri, where I grew up, we need to know, what do you think we can do about that when the feds won't do their portion of it? And so I'm not asking for a solution. Just keep that in mind, and the clock is ticking.
We're probably going to say the same things.
Thank you very much for that question, Commissioner. We have met with the TTB on a number of occasions, and most recently in April when we took a group of our members back to Washington, D.C. for our annual fly-in. And we met with them along with our counterparts from Napa Valley and Washington State to really call for a stronger role for TTB in enforcing the state rules that are higher than federal standards. And unfortunately, in those meetings, it was made quite clear that they don't really have the staff resources or interest, or they believe, in fact, the jurisdiction to enforce the state standards. And so we really walked away from that meeting feeling that that was going to be a heavy lift, and we really needed to look to our state bodies to help us to enforce those higher standards. Now, we also have talked with TTB about their label approval process, because that is where a difference could be made. If labels are approved—
Can they spell Willamette yet?
Yeah, we're working on that. Yes, there's a portion that our industry can do as well, because there are a lot of applications that are sent in, and the applications have grown phenomenally over the past decade as the wine industry and beer and spirits have grown. Their plate has gotten a lot fuller with those applications coming in. But our industry, and we try to educate our industry, and in fact TTB sends a labeling specialist every year to our Oregon Wine Symposium to do a seminar on how to get your label approved the first time and to do it right. So we really see that as a two-way street, and we have to address and we have sought to address the funding issues that TTB has faced in cooperation with national groups and other state associations to get more resources to the TTB so they can have more staff trained appropriately. So there's a big education side. But on the enforcement side, we really do see a gap particularly in protecting our AVAs, and a more of a step away from TTB and leaving it at the feet of the state to try to help us figure out a way to enforce these important rules.
I would just add that the TTB, at our request, has taken some enforcement steps. There is still quite a lot to be done, and it's going to require the cooperation of state and federal agencies.
Yeah, no question.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Rosenbaum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I have one comment. And I don't think I'm necessarily going to add anything here, but I get from yours, Justin, that it's not the producer's fault. It's not the Oregon people's fault. And I don't think any of us think that it's your fault that outside wineries or producers are not following Oregon standards, but the problem is that it is our problem.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we're not going to blame you, the underlying issue here is that it's our problem. So it is, in our sense, we do have to somehow, I mean, that is the quandary here. How do we get those people into jurisdiction that we can do things with? And I don't think, so I think that everybody is on board. The education has been excellent to get us to where Chair Rosenbaum has said we need to be, which is we acknowledge now we have something that we need to protect. Now we've got to go that step further, and I think that's where we're exploring.
Yeah.
So,
well, Commissioner Kernan, thank you for that. To be very clear, when I talk about the growers not bearing responsibility for the actions or practices of out-of-state producers, what I'm really referencing, I think, is are many growers who feel that they have been sort of caught in the middle of this, and maybe feeling as if they're almost being punished for doing their business, and that can't stand, right?
True, yes.
That we've got to figure out how to make sure that these people can run their businesses, sell their fruit, and that their businesses thrive, right? But you're right, it's a conundrum. So how do we deal with this issue? Because so much of the fruit from that region does get sold out of state. It's also important to mention that not every company from California abuses our labeling or winemaking content laws. It's absolutely not. And so, conversely, it's not just one company that many feel possibly are abusing. So really, this is about more than individual companies as well. But I just wanted to clarify that point about the growers, is that they need to be supported in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be the next step, is finding, now that I think everyone is up to speed about, we want to help you protect, as Chair Rosenbaum said, but we're going to have to figure out a way to work together to have the enforcement power to go forward with that.
I know, thank you, Chair Commissioner Kernan. I know we're near the end of our time here, but we do have some time separately with Director Marks and a few members of his staff. There are, I think, thousands of wineries licensed by the Commission under Chapter 471 that may not be on our radar at the Oregon Wine Growers Association, and vice versa. We totally accept the need that both together, OLCC and the industry associations, have education work to do, because many people who want to comply just don't even know what the rules are, because they just haven't been educated.
Yeah.
Working together, we certainly have a tremendous opportunity to educate, and that's part of our charter. Thank you for that question. And
So why don't you come back in 4 months again and give us another update? And I like the fact that Justin came along as a co-owner. And I think you should bring 1 or 2 co-owners again next time around. And so that's important to us. I personally like to hear from some of the owners.
That's Christmas. Christmas, 4 months.
It is?
Wow.
Well, that's a good time.
will do.
Bring
Thank
some
you.
wine with
Thank you for that invitation.
Michael?
Commissioner Harper?
I like to also, when you come back, talk more about diversity. You know, that's sort of the apex of what we do here at the state in regards to the changing trends. While I was on the wine tour, I had members share about that the workers were leaving wineries and going to hemp in regards to changing the way they were harvesting. So I'd like to know in regards to how that transformation in regards to labor is affecting your industry. We heard earlier that in the restaurant lodging business, we're going to increase to 200,000+. And and I heard your same numbers, it's almost the same in regards to what people are doing across Oregon in regards to minimum wage, finding these people, where are they coming from, how our members in your association are working with them. And finally, I just want to say how grateful I am, the King of States, for the wonderful opportunity in regards to charity. The wine industry, by far, in regards to any organization within the state, gives back so much. And I just want to make sure I throw that out there, because the introduction of your product to the state does take a huge marketing team. And I know, and everybody here probably knows, they go in the Albertsons, the Safeway, or wherever, and they see some cat standing in the hall in the lounge trying to serve a drink. I gotta have a couple, shopping for some meat or something. But it's important that relationship continues. And so you are also a part of that service permit program. You're also a part of who you have representing your product, and with the value that King of State has within the state. I mean, it's huge, and we go across the state. Those those facilities that they do these tours are phenomenal. I mean, they're like NBA gyms. I mean, you can sit there and all night, and I think people need to recognize this. If there are people in the audience that talk about cannabis, they need to recognize what the wine industry is doing in regards to vision and also moving forward. You guys have set a trend that nobody can compete with. So again, thank you so much for what you do. Labor is real important that I want to hear about. Diversity is real important when we talk about maybe only 2 minority-owned vineyards in the state. I know property is expensive, I understand that, 40 plus 50, 60 years, but it's still a value of what we're doing, and I think the citizens here in the state of Oregon want to know what's going on.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Harper, and I think there might be a way at our next appearance to maybe tie those thoughts together, bring some owners who also represent the diversity in our industry. And I was really encouraged and grateful that you mentioned the charitable work that's done by our industry. I referred to an economic impact study earlier in our remarks today, and one of the numbers that our industry is very proud of is that the annual value of the time and wine donated to charities all over Oregon is $12 million a year. And that's just about what everybody says. Yeah. Keep it coming. We're very, very conscious of the permission that communities give us to do business there and bring tourists. Sometimes clogged roads and rising real estate values aren't always a positive to sometimes people in the community. We're conscious of trying to enrich the communities when we can, and it's a huge, huge priority for us.
Liquor agents too.
Yeah, that's right.
Not that
That's
hasn't
right.
been long since we've gotten wine in our shops. So
thank you for that comment, and thank you to all the commissioners for your time, and thank you again for the time you took to go on tour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, we'll see you soon.
Brian, you're up and ready and coming. What we're gonna do is.
5 minutes, what, 10 minutes? Let's do 10 minutes.
No, let's do one thing quick. Let's just take the renewals and then take a break.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioners. For the record, Brian Fleming, Director of Retail. What I have in front of you is 14 contract renewals for next year. What we do for a couple of you fairly new here is we bring them approximately 6 months prior to the expiration of the contracts. You ratify the new agreements, and then we move into, for example, here 2020 with the issuance of new contracts. 6 of them are for 10 years, 8 are for 5 years. The difference between the two is the last 3 years of evaluations, whether you're outstanding or satisfactory. If you're an outstanding, you qualify for up to a 10-year reappointment period. Everything in front of you here meets the terms and conditions of the contract in the manual, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
See, we have some faith in you.
Chair, I move to approve the renewal of the 14 agent agreements listed above.
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harper?
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas?
Yes.
Commissioner Palcic?
Yes.
Commissioner Reval? Chair Rosenbaum?
Yes. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. We'll be back here at 10:30.
Commissioners, again, Brian Fleming, Director of Retail. First up before you, we have Albany East. This is for permanent appointment. This is a result of immediate resignation earlier this year. I will just go ahead and bring up the applicants one by one. I understand Commissioner Revel will be timing the presentations today.
And by popular demand, you get between 5 and 7 minutes. I've been told to compromise, and I'm a great compromiser. You get 6. So the minute you say hi, I'm gonna push the button.
Here we go. So with that said, we'll bring up Kirk Triance with You Got All the Whiskey, applicant for Albany East. And your presentation, again, is on the board, and the clicker is right here for you. With me.
Remember, it doesn't start until you say hi.
Right.
Just don't say hi.
Brian, could you tell us how many stores, or if they do own stores, and where they are at for each applicant?
Absolutely.
Is that,
Before I do the thing, you
'cause
tell
I
me
tried to, that would be great.
Yeah,
Thank
you got
you.
it. So Kirk is currently operating in South Salem as South Salem Liquor, and has been temporarily operating the store since February.
Okay.
One store.
Temporarily operated?
Operating Albany.
Why only?
Right.
Oh, okay.
The
but
one we're
operating
looking
this
at
one.
now.
Got it.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you.
We can start the clock. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to give this presentation. My name is Kirk Triance. I am the president of He Got All the Whiskey Incorporated. That was a name derived from me doing a playlist of whiskey and tequila songs and coming across a really good blues song named He Got All the Whiskey, and it just stuck in my head. I have been operating store 1017 in South Salem since May of 2016. Since that time, that store has grown from what was $2.4 million in liquor sales to $3.5 million last year. We continue to outpace the district. Last year we had a 10% growth, and I think our district, Jim's district, was about 4.5%. So it's been very exciting, and I can't tell you how excited I am about the opportunity to become the full-time agent for 1103. Back in February, I got a call from Jim in the afternoon. I was driving home from some appointment, and he asked me if I'd be interested to step in as the temporary agent for 1103, and that was because there was a financial issue that had come up with the prior agent. And I think I responded to him, sure, it'd be fun. And it has been fun. It's been very interesting. That store is a lot of opportunity. As we go through the presentation, you know, the thing that this is a similar mission statement that I had for 1017. I wanted to make that store a very fast and convenient and easy and accessible place for people to shop for liquor, and that we've done, and we've done. I'm proud of what we've accomplished at that store. At this store, in the short period of time I've been there, I was offered letters of recommendation by the current landlord and a number of the employees. Not that I solicited from them, but when they heard that I was putting forth my presentation, they asked if they could include them, which I was very, I've developed a very good rapport with that group. And all of the people that were employed at the time are still employed there. We just had one put in her notice. She's moving on to a full-time position outside the industry. But all of the employees that were there the day I walked in the store are still there. And they are a good, dedicated group. They had nothing to do with anything that transgressed and caused me to be asked to step in. But it's been a fantastic experience, and we'll go into what the commission may be able to review these after the fact on these. One of the other interesting notes was when Jim asked me to do it, I said I'd be happy to. He asked me that if I would call my landlord in Salem, because it just happened to be the same landlord that owned this business in Albany. And that landlord is fantastic. In Salem, our upgrades have been everything from new sidewalks to the parking lot getting repaved, to new roof, to new paint. He's exceedingly supportive. He calls me sometimes just out of the blue and will say, hey, I saw you got another great review on Google. So he's a very involved and very active landlord, and I am excited to continue to work with him. There is a lot of work that needs to get done down at that store. As we go through some of the pictures later on, you'll see it sort of looks like an old man cave. There's no theme to it. There's no consistency in the things. There's two 12 or 13-foot fish on the wall that don't have anything to do with
You have 2
anything
minutes.
else. So as we go through anyway, what I wanted to go through is my introduction and background. I've kind of already expressed to you guys that I'm at 1017. The opportunities that I see at this store are, we have to continue to make customer service the number one priority. We want to add beer, wine, some of this great Oregon wine we've just been discussing. I want to bring that in to make it a one-stop shop. The store needs an ice machine to provide ice. There's a lot of interesting elements of it that are just very worn and tired. So my business plan is to ultimately get right to work, dive in, update a lot of the things that need to get updated. I've talked to a couple of electricians with regard to upgrades utilizing the Oregon Trust of Oregon to relight the store. I've talked with the Chamber of Commerce. I actually have a meeting arranged with them next week. Optimistically that I'll be the agent that'll be involved, trying to be a good neighbor with the store. And I've developed a 30 and 90-day plan. I want to get through to some of the pictures so that you can see some of the vision that we have. All of these business plans, the business plan of the development of these things all have to do with the fact that the store just is tired. We want to rebrand the store. This is the logo from the South Salem store. I have the same artist working on a new logo for Albany. We have an updated floor plan. There's a huge amount of flooring that's available to do a lot of the work. But you can see how busy the store is in these pictures. You can see the store is what is on the left. On the right is more along the lines of what I want to bring it, I have a vision to. This corner is a miserable looking location that I want to add our beer and wine selection. We've got 30 feet or 20 feet of cooler that's full of pop and rock star drinks. We need to bring in some changes to the floor. People walk in 6 feet before you can see them as a customer. I would like to transition that sign in the middle over to a fully an LED store reader board that will allow us to advertise all the different things that we have in there. And relighting is also the other aspect of it that I had mentioned earlier. But we'll just go through and make a number of upgrades to bring to life what is a sort of an old, worn-out garage-looking warehouse and make it just a beautiful place that's welcoming for the customers to come in and visit. To include paint, everything.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions?
Chair? Have you found that temporarily operating this store has negatively impacted or impacted your ability to run the South Salem store in any way?
No, well, my son Dylan, who he's here, he has been taking on more and more of the responsibilities of South Salem. South Salem's sales actually in the last 4.5, each of the months in the last months that I've been away, so March through July, have continued to show increase in sales. He's picked up 3 or 4 different bar accounts, licensee accounts. We've just been, it's been thriving. He had taken on the tasks. I've been working with him, and he's been eager to develop in those elements. He's a sharp young man. He's been saving his money, and he is one of the investors in the new business. So, I'm as a father proud of that, excited of that, being able to pass that type of thing on. At the same time, we haven't missed a step in South Salem. It's part of the part that I've really truly enjoyed with the opportunity to. It was very good timing when Jim happened to call and say, "Hey, we need some help," and I was in a good position to be able to step in and do that.
I just need to understand one thing. Jim is the previous,
Oh, no, Jim Helgett, the district manager for my district at the OLCC.
okay, so just so that I understand this in the future, Jim, why did you pick this individual to do it?
Chair Rosenbaum, we had an immediate resignation from the outgoing agent, and so we needed somebody to step in and operate the store temporarily on short notice, knowing that Kirk had this relationship with the landlord of both buildings and that he was doing a great job for us in South Salem. He was a natural selection.
So was this gonna take place within a day or two, or, I mean, that
48
quick?
hours. Yes.
And we have no, this has nothing to do with you. I wanna understand the procedure on it.
If I may, Chair Rosenbaum, we had some financial opportunities in this store. We took action on the store to either close and/or immediate resignation. In doing so, this has happened during my tenure approximately 4 to 5 times where we are in arrears and we're trying to protect the state asset. We had immediate resignation and installed a temporary agent. Proximity was also a part of that because Salem's only 25, 30 minutes away. And so at that time, we had an operator in there that was available. And Jim ultimately called. I needed to remove the current operator in this store.
So, okay, I got it. The question I'm asking you is that, what was that, 4 months ago, 3 months?
Yeah, it was the 22nd of February. I got the call on the 20th of February, And then they called and they reconfirmed that at that point, they asked if I was interested.
So it's 6 months.
That I've been there, but it was 2 days when they asked me to do it and when they said, I
That's
need you to
not
be
my-
here at 8 a.m.
Let me try to get what I'm
Oh.
going at. It's been 6 months now, right?
Yeah, Chair Rosenbaum, that's correct. February was when we did the final audit, and he has been in there temporarily running the outfit for the last 6
And the
months.
statute requires you at this point
Yes,
to open it up, right?
yes.
So here's my question to you in the future. I'm just thinking out loud for myself on this. Is that, okay, I understand the circumstances, I understand the necessity, but if you're gonna appoint somebody on that basis, why don't you appoint that person for at least a year unless there's something going on? Because what's the sense of doing it? Because, you know, I'm just looking at it from the point of view is that if you do it for 3 or 4 or 5 months and you open it up, and then this individual, and I'm only using you as an example, has got time, effort, and money into it, you know, don't you want to give him an opportunity to do the job right?
Chair Rosenbaum, one of our goals here is we have some monies owed the state of Oregon from the prior agent, and in doing this within usually 4 to 6 months time frame, we eliminate anything on the books that is outstanding owing from a prior agent. And so the resignation buyout, any monies due OLCC will be removed, so the state's whole in terms of dollars missing from the state of Oregon. So in other words, we have money on the books that is still owed from the prior agent, but we can't do anything around that until we have a permanent successor agent.
How much money do you have on the books now?
Right now, originally was close to 7,500,000. We have
75,
75 to 100,000.
oh, 75 to 100,000.
We currently, through holding compensation due originally, we're about 25,000 in arrears at this point for the state asset.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Really? Thank you.
And again, Chair Rosenbaum, per the statute, which you understand is we have to advertise and we have to permanently appoint an agent in order to do this. So with that said, I'll move into the second applicant, who is Oregon Liquor LLC, or Sona Athwal. And I hope I've got the name close. There we are.
What's your name? This is different. What's his name, did you say, Brian?
They're paying it all, yeah.
Oregon Liquor LLC, the second tab, Commissioner Harper.
You said his name is Orsetta, or did I miss how you pronounce his first and last name?
What?
What?
What is your
I'm sorry, sir, what's your name?
Sona Athwal?
Sona Athwal, tab 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I thought you said something else.
And does, liquor store numbers or?
No,
No liquor store?
not currently liquor store owner, sorry. Go ahead, have a seat.
Are those, were there booklets?
Were there booklets or is it PowerPoint?
No, it's power.
PowerPoint.
Sorry. Go ahead.
It shows you have some partners too. Are they here today?
Yes, my one partner's here.
All 33%, so,
Yeah, the another partner's on the job.
okay.
Good morning, respected Paul Rosenbaum and respected all commissioners. My name is Sona Athwal. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. So if you're gonna give me the permission, I can start my presentation. Okay, I have 3 partners, Jaswant Sarana and Pushpajit Sani. Jaswant with me for past 16 years and we have 18-year experience. And Pushpajit Sani is a CPA. He's not here today, but we do together in future. Hopefully we're gonna be part of the team with you guys to work. So next one is gonna be, vision and mission. So our vision is gonna be excellent customer service and personal great relationship with the customers, and mission gonna be popular store in our area and on I-5 travelers Gonna be great store on the I-5 and a good selection of the liquor. So next one is gonna be location. Our location is in Albany and 56,000 population over there, and every year 5 to 6,000 people moving in there. And 70% majority of the people are adult. That's gonna be in our future customers, and we will have we're gonna be focused on the licenses too. So sale, right now sale is 4.6, and our target gonna be increase, not gonna be decrease. And we're gonna be do like marketing, modernization, and increasing hours and great customer service. So business plan. So we split in the 5 different parts of the business plans. Let's talk about that. So first one is operational plan. So we want to make sure the inventory comes to the right hand and the right quantity. Same thing the delivery, and I want to make sure. So whatever inventory we have, it is on the right hands, like a right amount with my cash register or our computer system. So cash management, we want to make sure all cash management, we're going to do the deposit every day, not getting over and short. We have to keep eye on each transaction. So internal control system, we want to make sure safety issues and a lot of inside, like no theft, and keep eye on my employees and our employees and customer safety. We're gonna put camera system and security system in there too. So next one is employees. This is gonna be main focus. We're gonna be hire great employees, check their backgrounds and another things, employee training each month as they need it, and staff requirement, we want to make sure we have enough staff to run smooth business. And employee benefits, I want to be my employees getting good benefits and good wage, then our part of the team working great and longer time. If my employees are happy, so we are a great team and we're gonna work great, and it's gonna be increase the sale too. So marketing, so we have a lot of ideas to doing the marketing, but and community involvement. This is, I live in this city for past 16 years. I involve in the community for pretty much a lot, and because I'm assistant coach for wrestling in the high school, and we doing more events like a community, like we're doing more events for the charities or something like in the city, and they have like 15 events come in the city every month, so we're gonna focus on that one too. And after that, they have like some issues in the store for past time. I went to the meeting, I'm involving in the communities, but if you want, we can discuss on that one too. The next one is modernization. You can see it's gonna be totally looks like gonna be a great store in the brand new looking outside. Interior plan, we're gonna be change all interior plan, and we're gonna increase the space in there. So more organ product tasting, a lot of adding new things in there. You can see without structure, we're gonna change most of the totally store's gonna be look brand new, and we're gonna change new things in there.
2 minutes.
And we have like these ones, like I'm gonna go a little bit back. In this structure, we can't see here, but they have some security issues. A lot of community involved in there too, because I go to the community every time. I don't know, past time, we did some complaints about that store within 2-3 years, because they have like outside still same thing going on. It's not complaining, but is we like part of the community. I want to be a good store over there. I don't want to be any junk outside. Still they have a lot of junk and people and kids hanging outside. This is not a good for us. And because I have a teenager kids too, and I'm watching the school kids, and a lot of parents know about me, and we are talking about that stuff. And they have a one issue in the inside. Is a you can see the building is a two separation in there. 2 separate businesses there. And
Can you go back to the picture of the 2 separate businesses? Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
okay, there you go. But I did not posted some pictures in there, but my respecter, another agent already showed you the picture. I can focus on that one if we're gonna go their point. They have a 7-foot wall inside the business, in liquor store and the Mexican store. 7-foot wall only. And they have a door over there. If we're paying our separate rent and they paying their separate rent, Why this wall not go to the all the way to separation on that one? 7 feet wall, any kid can jump. And past 3 months, I'm watching over there, and my guys, like my friends, we go to gym with the police guys and firefighter. They are always talking the ladders over there. If somebody just put a step over there, they can jump. They don't have to jump. They can walk through using the ladder and stealing the inventory. This is not somebody gonna steal. This is like for the kids, the opportunity to give them, you can come on this side to get whatever you want. This is like issue. And some issues like outside goofy signs, graffiti signs, I'm sorry. So this is like minor things to clean up. I'm thinking whoever gonna run this store, but we want to be securely, this store's gonna be operating these ones.
Thank you.
So that's the main important. And outside kids hanging, we don't want to be that one too, please.
Thank you for your proposal. I see you've been working in the retail industry, it says for 15 years?
No, 18 years in this business, but we running my own business past 16 years.
So was it this type of business where you're selling a product, or what were you doing?
We have a like beer and wine store.
Oh, you have a convenience store?
I have a
now.
convenience store.
Okay, that's what I was trying to,
Oh, sorry about that.
do you have, that's what I was gonna say, what experience do you have in the liquor or alcoholic beverage industry?
Not liquor,
But
in a
alcoholic-
business, like in the beer and wine,
Okay.
past
beer and
6 years I have experience. And we did not got any tickets for selling to the minors. This is my main focuses.
So where is that business at?
I have this business in Lebanon. Lebanon in only 15 minutes away from them, and I live in Albany past 16 years.
You live in Albany
Yes.
for about 16 years?
Yeah, it's only 5 minutes away from my house.
Do you have a relationship with you said for the 7-foot wall, so you have a relationship now with the building owner, so you'll be able to take
I did not got any information. I don't know how to get it because who's the previous owner. So we want to make sure if I got it, I well know the city mayor and the city involvement over there. If I talk to them, I said, if we have any issues for any building, I didn't mention for them, but they said within 24 hours, they will give me the permit to we fix it, this thing temporarily, and we're gonna have to show them the all structure, they're gonna give us the permits too.
and your partners in the business, you mentioned on your application, you're gonna work 40 to 60 hours.
Yes.
How many hours are your business partners? Are they fiscal partners, or are they working?
No, he's gonna be physical, but he's gonna be run my another store. One store he gonna run in Lebanon because he live in Lebanon. I live in Albany, so better to be I can handle it in Albany store.
Okay, so they're just corporate members.
He's corporate member, but in future, by the way, I gonna go for sick or someone, he can handle it on the behind you. And our bookkeeping, of course, our CPA gonna watch everything.
I got a quick question. You touched base a little bit about employees and employment. Is it your intention to replace the current employees that are working there and do a complete rehire, or?
No, we have to do the pretty good meeting with them to talk to them because the current employees live in Albany and I live in Albany. Couple employees I know about that. We want to tell them, make sure if senior citizens or any customer or disabled persons came to the store, they're not chatting on the phone. They have to be watch on them and not go to every 2 minutes on the smoke break. When they're allowed to do the breaks, they have legal breaks going on because they have 3 employees. They're gonna go on that time. Last time we saw over there, one senior citizen, she's trying to, they said actually, okay, ma'am, may I help you? And she said, no, I'm fine, but I can feel it. She is older, she can't handle it, 2 big bottle of vodka. Employees are supposed to be go over there and pick it up and put in the bag and give it to them. But employees not busy to the work. They're chatting each other, one person showing them something on the website. This is not they're getting the pay. So I want to keep the same employees, but I have some employees from Albany, they're working with me past 16 years, I think. If we have to replace someone, we can replace, if somebody don't want to like it. But we have gonna be little bit different policies. If somebody want to take their stuff to outside, we have to give it to them in the car, and we have a dress code gonna be, some employees gonna be watch that one. and each employee have a right on their breaks. They're gonna go to the breaks. My thinking, like, if we have a great employees, great team, so it's gonna be, looks like family store, and it's gonna be a successful business.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian.
And can I, well, I have a couple, can I just clarify, how many other stores, other convenience stores do you have? Is it just one?
Right now, we have only one.
Okay, and that, and you said that has.
I have
been
used to be in
successful?
Albany store, but we sold it. Right now, we have one store in Lebanon.
In Lebanon?
We sold it, that one, so right now we are 2 person and one store. So
Okay.
we thought like, happy to be serving the community.
And can I ask a question? How's employee turnover been there? Has it?
No,
is it-
we trying to be like, we have like, we trying to give them great training. They can work with us longer time. Mostly, majority of the employees we have, they're working with us like 10, 15, 16 years. One employee got like a retirement with us. So I'm not turning out, but we want to be little bit strict on my business to positive attitude. I want to respect my employees. I want to be, employees gonna respect on my business. That's why we are all gonna be successful.
Thank you.
Terrific, thank you.
Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, next up, the third tab is Christina Van, and Christina is not currently a liquor store operator.
I don't know how long ago.
One to Laura, yeah.
I don't know, Brian?
Brian,
Has-
did Christina ever make a proposal to us in the past?
No, she has not. This is her first time, yes. So, welcome.
Can we see?
I know, I like being able to flip through them.
There you go.
Forward, backward?
I like flipping through them, yeah, but it's a.
It's pretty sensitive, so.
Okay.
We'll share.
Do you have an extra one?
Do you have any extras?
I do,
One
a
that I
lot,
know.
actually.
Paper.
I have them under my chair. You can look. That's nice. Thank you. Anybody else?
I know.
I have a lot.
That's fine.
I brought 11.
Oh, great, if you've got them. Yeah, you have 11.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's on here, but.
Under my chair, there's a whole stack of them.
Take chairs. He doesn't want it. There we go.
Oh, here they come.
Yes.
Thanks.
Slightly over-prepared, I think. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair Rosenbaum. Thank you for the invitation and opportunity to share my ideas with you for the East Albany Liquor Store. My name is Christine Van, and I've been in the restaurant industry for the past 25 years, 21 of them in management, specifically corporate staff and management training. I've worked for private owners as well as corporate chain restaurants. Most recently, I spent 7 years with Round Table Pizza Development Corporation. I was hired in 2010 during their bankruptcy to help restructure and rebrand their company. Myself and a group of my peers and our area managers analyzed each store and made recommendations for upgrades and remodeling. My focus for the next 6 years was restaffing and then rehiring and then in training entire management teams to productively run those 24 units. The turnaround was successful with the company in 2016. Our privately employee-owned company became very profitable and was purchased by a publicly traded company. At that time, I decided that wasn't really the path I wanted to go on, so I took my employee stocks and cashed them out and have been looking for a new adventure of my own, and that's kind of what brings me here today. My vision for the East Albany store is to drive sales by providing the Albany community an exemplary shopping experience through superior customer service with a unique variety of products in a convenient and stylish environment. As it sits, the Albany store is in a great location. The building itself has a great bit of potential. The location is seated next to a large shopping area
which includes a Costco, a Winco, and a Kohl's. Just north of it, ATI Metal Manufacturing and companies like it provide thousands of jobs to the local area. There is a heavy traffic flow from I-5 onto Pacific Boulevard, and with over 56,000 people in Albany, quite a few of them drive by the store daily. Currently, East Albany does $4.6 million in sales. 89% of that is over-the-counter sales. The face-to-face interaction on the floor, that is its main strength and the main focus for my improvements. So first I want to extend the hours. We will be moving to 9 to 9 from Monday to Thursday, adding an hour of time each day, and an additional 2 hours on Sunday, making it open from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. The addition of these 6 hours a week could easily produce another $325,000 in sales per year. So next, we need to go out there to get them in here. We need to create a new website and join community and social media pages. I will go out and introduce myself to licensees as well as local artisans. We want to support our community by showcasing local vendors and carrying their unique products. I will also join the Area Chamber of Commerce and begin supporting local city events and fundraisers. So now that we have their attention, what are they going to see when they come to the store? So the first thing they're going to see is new illuminated signs outside, like this one here. Inside, we will be giving the store a whole new look. We would be getting upgraded shelving, new floors, paint, creative lighting, all new decor, a Distilled in Oregon section, and a designated tasting area. We will be replacing the front counter with something similar to this, and we will be removing the glass and wood cases in room for more shelves and gondola island displays. By adding the shelving, that will allow us to expand our spirit selections and add higher end products. We will convert to a non-exclusive model to offer a wide variety of beer, wine, and hard ciders. There are some of the items that I've chose to put in there as a kind of a new look. Currently, the new trend is the industrial look, black shelves, bare concrete, metal, lots of refurbished wood. So there's some ideas. Oh, I already did that one. Pardon me.
2 minutes.
Thank you. But we can't forget, we are not really selling products here. We are selling an experience. So by creating this new ambiance, we will give the community a modern and unique shopping environment. Our staff will be trained and knowledgeable as well as personable and inviting. We will host tastings and feature local artisan products paired with Oregon distilled spirits and wine. And we'll be presenting displays with glassware, party supplies, novelty items, and gift ideas. We thus making it a one-stop shop and increasing the experience for the customer. Current licensee sales are just over $500,000 a year, and I would love to capture more. I will be going out and making relationships in the community, making sure our current licensees are receiving the level of care they deserve, and actively pursuing new accounts. My goal here is to see at least a 20% increase in sales by the end of 2020. I believe with the new hours of operation, the new and upgraded spirits, the remodel, and additional licensee accounts, I do believe that that is an attainable number. Upon the completion of the remodel, we will ensure that a proper security system is in place. We will implement all the safety protocols concerning high ABV and high dollar spirits, and all the staff will be in full compliance with all required OLCC mandated training. I have included my 30, 60, and 90-day timeline for improvements. Not currently on this or the projected budget for improvements is the possibility of putting in the new security system, which is a must. I'm also not currently aware if this store uses the KMDS point of sale system. I have made myself familiar with it. I interned a few shifts with a local liquor store. If that is not there, that will also be implemented and is not a problem adding to the budget.
Thank you.
I hope I've provided the information that you need to make a confident decision about my capabilities in enhancing this store. And I believe my experience and perseverance will drive me to accomplish my goals. Thank you very much, Chair Rosenbaum and Commissioners, for having me here today.
Any questions?
Thank you. I don't know if you said, where are you living right now?
Currently, I live in Donald.
Okay.
It's about 40 minutes away from Albany.
South? Sorry, I'm,
Oh, north of Albany.
okay.
Well, south of here.
Probably not even that far, right?
No, it's not that far.
Yeah.
It's an
sorry.
easy breeze drive on I-5.
Um,
Okay.
Sorry, you're managing the Wild Hair now?
I am.
That's good. Yeah, it's, would you stay in that position, or would you be?
No, that would, no, that would go by the wayside.
Oh, cool. Well,
This
you-
would be my main focus, my career.
I've been impressed with what the Wild Hair's done in recent years with the Hair Festival and all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
and
it's-
we, 3 years ago, we opened a second store in Oregon City, and then 2 years ago, we started Country Fest, which brought in a huge number of new acts from all over the country.
And how long have you been with them?
I've been with Joan with the Wild Hair for over 2.5 years, but her and I worked together 15, 18 years ago at Wanker's Corner.
Yeah, all the great spots down there.
Right?
Mhm. Well, cool. Good job. That's all I have.
Chair?
Yeah.
From an industry perspective, your inventory management and your revenue accountability track record is impressive. I was looking through your application, your work history. It's quite impressive. I believe if you can master the books in the restaurant hospitality business, you're borderline CPA genius level. So kudos to you, because it's tough. Question to you, Christina, is same question in regards to employees.
Mhm.
What's your intention on the current employees that are
When
hired?
going into, I have a lot of background in this actually, going into a place where it could have potentially not been run well, there are all different levels of employees. Some will fight back, some will go with the flow, some want to improve, and some don't. So it's a matter of going in, sitting down, having a nice meeting with everybody, making my intentions and my expectations clear. And then as you go along, some will get weeded out and some will not. And they will be replaced slowly. This is gonna be a learning process for me, and I think going in and just throwing everybody out is a really terrible idea.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You've got an estimated total of $51,650 without the security system.
Correct. Or the KMDS,
Right,
if
so
possible.
let's throw another 5,000 on it.
Correct.
So that's 56,000. I'm just curious, do you have access to your 401K plan? How are you gonna fund this thing?
My husband and I currently have $150,000 in cash in our bank accounts. I just cashed out my $75,000 in employee stock options, and my sister-in-law has given us a note for up to $120,000.
Okay, that's not on here, but that's, okay.
Yeah, it was in my application.
Yeah.
On the 100?
Yeah.
Oh, on the hard copy?
Yeah, I got the hard copy.
Okay. See, that's the advantage of having the hard copy. All
I
right,
do,
thank you.
yes, I do have exceptional funding available.
Good. Okay,
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Would the commission like to withdraw it now and consider this, or should we wait until everything is done with?
Let's do everything.
Sounds good to me.
Everything.
Yeah, that's
Everything?
fine.
Okay, let's keep on going then.
4 more to go. So under your second tab, or tab C, this is for 1157 Salem East. This is a result of a resignation from the current operator, Doug Powell. The applicants, there's 4 applicants here today, and I'll just jump right in. This store here, last year, 2018 calendar, did almost $7 million. First is.
This is the
you can
sale.
do one. This is Babadeep Singh Inc., Amritel and Pritpal Singh, and they are current operators in Amity. goes by Sunny. With that, go ahead. And here's the clicker.
Good morning.
Good
Chair
morning.
Roosevelt and all the chairmen. First, I would like to say thanks for giving us the opportunity to present our presentation for store 1157 located on Lancaster. Our store DBA name is going to be 7-Star Liquor Store. The first slide is our personal information. We are two partners, me, Amritpal Singh, and my partner, Pritpal Singh. And he's sitting with me. I do have a 13-year of experience in retail, and I'm a current liquor agent for Amity for 4.5 years. And my partner, Pritpal, also have a 18-year of retail experience, and he's also a liquor agent for last 4.5 years. Together, we have a great team to run this high-volume store.
Timer, I have a quick question. So each of you already own a liquor store?
No, together we own one.
Oh,
We are
Amity,
same partners.
Amity Liquor Store.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you, timekeeper. I messed you up.
Yeah, you did.
Give me an extra minute.
We both live in Salem from last 14 years. I know a lot about bar owners and restaurant owners because I used to run 2 restaurants. We always ready to help our community by donating food, donations, or any other help that they need. Because we are current agent, due to that, we know all the rules and regulation of the OLCC doing in the business. Our next slide is summary. 7-Star Liquor is going to be a non-exclusive store. Our store will be open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. These great hours will provide an extreme convenience for those in the area above 21 of age to purchase liquor in a safe, well-stocked store. We are going to keep all the employees because they are doing a great job while running a high-volume store. But we will have our own management plans to execute. We will have 12 employees with me and my partner. We also have a designated driver to deliveries for the licensees. Next is our mission and goals. Our mission is going to make a prime locations. Our location is to be a prime location for liquor, beer, and wine, and cigarettes. Also, our mission is to attract visitors, local customers, bar and restaurant owners by providing them a good customer service and with a great variety. And our goal is to become a #1 location in Oregon by providing an extensive inventory, providing the best price of beer, cigarette, and liquor, and all other products. Next is our sale projection. Store is doing around $7.5 million a year projection, and our projection is to increase at least 5% every year by adding more SKUs, better advertisement, friendly atmosphere in the store, and going to target to make our store a one-stop shop market. Next one is a mobile app. We are going to try to launch a mobile app for our store according to the OLCC guidelines if we can. And the first, we're gonna launch the app just for the licensee so we can find out the output of the app. The app will help us to make a direct communication and a geo-targeting market that will increase the recognition to build our customer loyalty. Our store website is going to create awareness, and app is gonna help us to increase our sale. It's going to help to stand out from us to the crowd and improve the visibility of our business. The next one is our sale projection. So right now, this year we're gonna try to maintain the sale, whatever we're doing, because it's doing a great volume, and from after that, our goal is to increase 5% every year. Since by 2022, these are the numbers that we are looking for.
2 minutes.
This is our management program. So we're gonna have a general manager, assistant manager, cashier, stocking, and a delivery person. So this is the population just for 97301, not the whole Salem, just the area where the store is. It's about 57,839 people. Median household income is around 51,945, and the daily traffic that goes through Lancaster is around 28 to 30,000 cars. our control plan, we're going to to replace the scanner to 2D scanner so we can scan all the IDs. That will help us to get the fake IDs and underage right away. We're gonna train our staff to recognize the false IDs and all that. Card every member who comes in the store, every customer, install high-end security cameras, and install 2 TV monitors for the cashier, whatever the hidden spots in the store, so they can look it in the screen, so they can identify if anything happening over there, and all the high-end liquor in the back of our counter. Impact on the locations, right now there's 2 locations on side of each. We are in the middle, so I don't think so it's gonna make any difference because they all are running. And so next, our location. Our location right now is 3,400 square feet. We are adding another 1,800 square feet to that location. There's another building empty to next door. We already talked with the landlord and he's okay to give us. So this will give us more floor so we can add more SKUs and make our store more displays, because there's a lot of stuff we can add because Salem is growing so fast and there's Amazon coming behind it. So it's gonna get a lot more employees passing by. So that will give us opportunity to increase our sale rapidly, and we're going to carry almost 80% of liquor, 20% of other non-exclusive stuff. More than 2,500 SKUs we're going to try to carry, 400 SKUs for beer and other. This is the current picture. We're going to expand the whole store, change the whole floor plan, adding another side where the new portion just for the stocking. So we can make special bar orders and restaurant orders so they don't get any discrepancy with the counter sale, because they have a lot of bar orders, because they do around $2 million just in the licensee sale.
Thank you.
Thank you. These all are the pictures.
Any questions? So, no questions?
Chair. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just had a question
Yes.
on how you plan on managing Amity, and what is your plan to juggle the
So
2
right now,
different
we both
locations?
are in Amity store.
Mhm.
It's a small liquor store, so we don't have much in it.
Okay.
So he's gonna stay over there, and I'm gonna move to fully on that liquor store, the one
Okay.
we're gonna apply, and he's gonna help me too, because the Amity one is like really scarce, it's only 500 to 700 square feet, so it's not that hard to manage, so we
Well,
basically,
That brings me to my question. You're Sonny, right?
yes,
Okay, and you're Goldie.
yes.
So, Sonny, you've got 40 to 60 hours a week at the store.
Yes, sir.
And Goldie, you have 60 to 80 hours a week at the store. Will you explain that to me? I don't understand if, that doesn't make any sense.
So right now, I'm doing around, with Amity store, we both spending every day. We go 8 in the morning and come home at 8 or 9. So there's no limit in hours. So we go every single day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. So same thing over there, we have no limits of hours.
Like we have the employees over there, but we just over there.
We wanna
to the
to stay over
outlet.
there so
Yeah.
everything go perfect, so.
You're
we
running
just-
it with less employees,
No.
We have a lot of employees.
We have a lot
not
of-
like on the register, we are just managing. the
which
stuff.
is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's,
Still we
it's
have,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So one of you will be at one store and one will be at the other?
yeah. And then, but we can help each other. If he need it at the Amity store, so I can help him, and if I need him at the new store, he can help me out over there too. So that's why we are both partners, going for another store for same, so it's a better understanding for us, and it's easy for us to manage because we understand each other really good, and it
So-
works out pretty good.
All right, just wait 1 second. I want to see one thing here. There's, so, there's another, here we go. Oh. Okay, I got it. All right, thanks.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is Jasmine Inc., Jaswant Singh, Manpreet Singh.
And he doesn't own a liquor store at this time?
Where is? Yes, he does. Yes, so I was,
Okay, where,
so
oh, good.
currently operating in Mill City.
Thanks, bud.
And, excuse me?
Where's that?
Mill City's on the way to
Sorry.
Detroit Lake off of I-5. Highway, excuse me, I-5
I
to
know it
20.
well.
You know it well.
Thank you.
So, and how many years,
Has
Thank you.
their
how many
relationship-
years has he had the Mill City liquor store?
Oh, our family acquired it back in December, end of December.
Yeah, okay, so not less than,
So-
less than,
But before that, my brother Harry, he runs the SIO liquor store also.
right.
Expansions.
Can you,
Expansion store, SIO, when we expanded, in SIO, Oregon.
Yeah.
So Harry here,
yeah,
built the store and the grocery
Congratulations.
store.
yeah.
So before you get timing, is there a relationship?
Yes, sister.
Yes, but is the spelling the same for the people who just?
No, there's not. In our religion, the men typically have the last name Singh, which means lion or braveheart, and the women have the last name Kaur, which means princess or queen. But nowadays, people have moved to use a
Good to know.
different last name, which typically comes from the village they're from back home in India. But that's why you'll run into a lot of people that have last name Singh. That's a religious thing more than a relationship.
Good, thanks
Okay.
for
So you,
clarifying that.
we appointed you for SIO. SIO, okay,
Yes.
okay, so you're a SIO agent, and that was December, right?
No.
No.
That was,
3 years, how long was
Two
it?
and
2
a
years
half
ago.
years,
2.5 years ago. And you're, and you have SIO.
No, Mill City, SIO. Two different towns, so I'm agent from 1267,
Okay.
and they're from agent 1007.
And that's SIO.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's the one we just appointed you, when did we appoint him?
In phase 2 of expansion. He's got me right.
All right.
I'm also real old.
Right. And then, your brother,
Yeah.
Brother-in-law.
brother-in-law.
Yes.
Damn, you got good memory.
Yeah.
we appointed you in Mill City
Mill City, yeah.
6 months ago?
Yeah.
It was an existing business, we bought it, and then we went from a temporary to a permanent placement.
In this phase.
Oh, okay, congratulations. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for all you do for the state.
Let's
All
make
right,
sure to
thank you,
introduce
timekeeper.
yourselves as you get started.
And so,
Okay.
3 grand. Yeah, I do.
For some reason, she is more.
There you go.
So, our motto at Jasmine Inc. is innovation.
Name and,
Oh.
name.
Harry Singh, Mindy Kaur, Mike Singh. And those are our nicknames. Oh, I'll explain in just a second. It's just easier that
No,
way.
no, don't take your time.
Okay.
It's about business, close the deal.
Okay. Innovation is another name of growth. That is our motto at Jasmine Inc., or actually the Stop and Save family. Our family has been in the convenience store business since 2001. We own various types of stores. 9 are family managed, 6 are independent. The family managed stores include anywhere from 1,000 square foot convenience store to gas stations to 15,000 square feet thriftways. Some of them have liquor stores within the business itself, like our current locations. The Mill City Sporting Goods store also has a small selection of liquor. The SIO store has a small selection of liquor. We have a history of growth. We have grown by 1 store every year and a half. We typically pick smaller cities and towns because that allows us to be more community involved by doing donations and creating jobs and upgrading buildings, which brings more business to the smaller towns. Our family is my brother, Harry. He runs 2 of the stores and manages the liquor portion at Jasmine Inc. at the Mill City location and the SIO location because he's the most experienced in it. And my dad, Jaswant Singh, he's the one that started the business 19 years ago. He had a family commitment pop up in Canada, so couldn't be here, but he is a partner. And he takes care of most of our financing. Manpreet Singh is my husband. He runs the Mill City liquor store along with a convenience store and Indian grocery store. We are very diversified, where we are able to run multiple locations. We tend to hire good managers and put in the long hours in the beginning to be able to cut down in the end by putting the good procedures and plans in place. I am not part of the Jasmine Inc. I'm not going to be running the store, and I don't have a financial stake in it per se. I'm here to represent that I take care of the family aspect, and I run a bookkeeping firm that helps us keep everything clear and on the dot, so OLCC can come in anytime and go, hey, where's this going? Is inventory, being taken from one store to another? Is it being tracked? I make sure all that is happening, so you can come anytime and say, this is the papers we need, and I make sure I present it to you. And I take care of the family, because somebody's got to do that. And I'll hand it over to my brother, Harry, now.
Hi. So with Lancaster Liquor, it's a beautiful store. It's well ran. The numbers show that aspect of it. So our plans for that store is there's essentially two businesses running within that. There is the retail side of it where consumers go in, and then there's the bar side of it. The bar side is about a third of the business that they do. So our plan in that expansion is we want to rent the place next door and essentially split up the two businesses. The next door becomes the storage, storage in the back stock, and where we get the orders ready for deliveries. And then on the current side where the storage is currently, we're going to pull that back and expand that out into just expanded retail area. So, because they've done a beautiful layout of the store, which is on page 6 on the booklets I gave you guys. So 6, 7, and 8 shows the new layout of it. The biggest challenge with this, with the current store, is going to be the remodel aspect of it. With it being such a high volume store, it is going to cost whoever comes in lots of money of lost sales while they do the remodel. So our plan is to acquire next door, get next door ready for all the backstock area, move the backstock area so none of the bar orders, none of that side of the business gets affected. And then it's going to be just slowly transitioning on the other side, where we pull all the backstock area up, get that cleaned up, get that retail ready, and then just do sections at a time. So that way there's no downtime for either retail sales or bar orders. Currently there isn't a designated tasting area in there. We want to add that in there. We want to add a designated tasting area. We want to put a beer cave in there. That way we can have a variety, expanded variety on beer. And the wine section in there is a little bit small, so we want to add a bigger wine section.
2 minutes.
So we already got a letter of intent from the real estate holding company that they are willing to work with us to lease us next door. For the delivery side, we want to get basically their Ford Transit or Sprinter van with the store logo on it, so the driver doesn't have to come back to the store as many times to reload. We want to work on an app, one that where the bars can order from, and the other one is I want to eventually talk with the commission on having some sort of funding set aside for the Oregon Liquor Search for that to become mobile, because right now a lot of the consumers don't know that website exists. So the only people who know it are the ones who are tracking down hard to find bottles of whiskey or hard to find something. They're the only ones that know when the stock's are updated. It'd be really nice if the commission would work on that, getting that available out to the general public, or just more knowledge to the regular consumer that that source is there and they can get more information from the products.
So I know we're running out of time, and I actually wanted to take that moment and touch on some of the things that OLCC already has that's great, but not easily available. OLCC has this awesome magazine called Spirited Oregon, but I went into the Salem location, didn't even know what I was talking about. So some of the awesome stuff about this magazine is the recipes in there. With our bartenders, we plan to pass these out to the bars so that way they can try new recipes, which in turn will get them to buy more product, and more sales for them is more sales for us. Another thing that Oregon recently started was the raffle. We plan on putting posters and flyers out at our store and having a Kisco system where a customer can come in and register for the raffle. That way we get more. Right now, about 2,000 people tried it the last time we held a raffle. with amount of foot traffic that comes into Lancaster store alone, we want to raise that number up to closer to 10,000 people, which we think is easily possible because they're not gonna have to go home or open their phone, search it. There's gonna be a computer already there. Hey, type in your information. You might win this really cool bottle, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, how lucky are you?" And
Thank you.
Thank you. That's us. Thank you, Chairman Rosenbaum, and thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I talk fast sometimes.
Any questions?
Chair, I got a question for Brian. In regards to the current stores they have, with this store being upwards to 7 million, where does that compare to the two stores they currently have today?
Commissioner Harper, Mill City is a remote rural location.
Yeah.
A couple of walls of liquor, bait and tackle. They've actually redeveloped the building itself. So it's, off the top of my head, I want to say 400 to 500,000 annually.
Yes.
And then the SIO location is nearing 500,000.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. So about 500,000, just short of 500,000 at each location. Both pretty rural locations.
So this is a pretty big jump. So you feel that you're ready to handle this jump from?
It is a big jump, but you gotta realize our family started out with one convenience store back in 2001, and we have jumped from convenience stores to gas stations to thriftways. That's all we know. Because if we don't innovate, we're gonna become stagnant, and all we're gonna own is 1 or 2 convenience stores. We know how to delegate, but at the same time, we know how to work together. My brother knows even if I'm not part of the management, I have his back. That we can sit down at a dining table and talk about this when we need to, at the same time be able to run independent and together, because we're a family unit.
Well, that's, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Harry?
Yeah, Harry.
That's Harry. I'm Mindy.
Okay, you're Harry.
Yes.
You've got 20 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
on here.
Yes.
And Manfred, you have 40 hours. So
$7
that,
million store.
$7 million store, I know that you work well together, but that's pretty low.
So basically, our goal on that aspect is at the current stores, they're set up, they're running fine. They're at, for being in the rural community they're kind of at their peak, where we might, just due to inflation and just a little bit more growth there, might gain another $100,000, maybe $200,000 worth of sales there at the most. So on my part in the business in SIO, I have business partners there, which I can delegate more hours to them at that current location, and I can focus more on this.
But why didn't you put it down on the application?
I believe I had, I'm not.
No, you
No,
got
so
20 hours.
actually, I will explain that a little bit further. I think what we wanted to do, we wanted to use realistic numbers. We didn't want to come in here and promise you we're going to be there 80 hours a week, and then you're going to be like, okay, you have 9 more locations. Are you just going to say bye to them, or what's going to happen? The 40 hours and 20 hours are the minimum that they're going to be there in the store no matter what. And we're going to keep the management team as it is, the managers and the employees for the time being, and learn from them, because it's a great store. There's no reason to come in and fire everybody. We're not going to be standing at the counter. We're going to be 8 hours in the office working with each employee, here's what we can improve, here's what we can do. We wanted to use realistic numbers, and that's why those are the numbers we picked. That's what we know for a fact. We're going to be there at least 40 hours a week, longer if need be, and when we are doing the remodel, because we do that ourselves. We are actually in there pushing the broom and helping install the coolers. We don't just sit back and delegate, but at the same time, we didn't want to be unrealistic and say we're going to be there 80 hours. We will be when it's required, but our goal in long term is to always have that 40 hours dedicated to that location, because it's a high volume store. We don't want to go 80 hours and come back to 20 hours. We're gonna be there 40 hours Mike, 20 hours Harry, and more as needed. And Jesse's gonna come in and go as necessary too.
It's okay to inflate the hours.
I was
120 hours a week.
I didn't want to lie to the commission, and I didn't want to make up numbers out of the hat to impress you guys. We want to be realistic because we want to do a realistic job that we can actually show you guys this can be done.
Where do you live in proximity to the store?
Salem, probably like 5-6 miles away.
You live in Salem?
Yes.
Both of us do, yes.
Okay,
And she's like 4 miles, I'm like 5 miles away from the store.
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Well, the goal is to do 80 hours a week, but just cut it down to 20 because then you got it under control. But if you go for 20 to 80, it doesn't, you know, I appreciate what you're saying in terms that you didn't want to overstate it, but.
I mean, we've been, like our family, our company's been growing. You don't grow by just working 20 hours. You probably built an empire yourself. You have to delegate to your managers. You gotta find the right people. You gotta delegate to them, and you gotta be constantly just looking for any growth opportunities there are. So, you know, this store is ran well. The numbers say it.
And this has nothing to do with it, but you don't delegate until you understand what you have.
No, absolutely.
You know,
We're not-
I mean, when I come into a corporation, I keep everybody there
Yeah.
until I find out what I have.
Yes.
And then
I've
I get
had-
rid of most of them.
I've had numerous conversations with the employees at the store, with the current staff there. Like, you know, I've already went and listened to, okay, what are you guys' issues? What isn't working here? You know, one of the things they're saying, the internet connection isn't the best there right now. All right, let's upgrade that to something better. There's no public Wi-Fi in that store for customers and employees. Let's work on that, you know? One of our goals is to have an iPad for the employees, so where they can go look up recipes for the customer. So the customer's looking at a particular thing like, oh, you're buying vodka, here are the different recipes you can try. So they're, you know, we've been talking with them, and then just from our experience out of the businesses, like, this is gonna be our #1 focus, just because the size and the stature of this business. And then one thing that hasn't been mentioned, one of the stores that popped up next to it is a new one that you guys put in about 6 months ago. 6 months ago it opened up, or maybe a little longer. So this store, it's more about maintaining it than growth at this moment. First, we have to absorb whatever business they take away, and then we can start growing again.
Here's my observation.
Yes.
You're both very articulate, very smart, and I know you know what you're doing. But Manfred is the one who's gonna be in the store. I haven't heard from him yet.
He's just used to me doing most of the talking, and I apologize for that. He's the ideas man, and I'm the computer girl.
I got it. No, that's not gonna fly.
But he.
I don't do anything. I'm just nobody. I think you're the key right there. You're it.
No, my priority, I'll be honest, is my kids and my family, and being the backbone and supportive of my brother and my dad and my husband. I don't just sit at home. I help my kids where they need to be, and then if my brother or my husband, anyone needs help putting things together or anything, I am there for them. That's my role. And they are the ones that do the nitty gritty, you know? That's just life.
Manpreet, would you like to
Well
say a
played.
couple
Yes,
words?
Manfred, please do. Before I embarrass myself further.
Yeah, so as far the Mill City store is concerned, I've been there for 6 months, and it was a new experience for me. It went very well, and right now I have good employees there, and there's one of these employee and which is just about to be manager. So I plan her to be manager, and then me and Harry, we will be spending most of our time at our new location.
On that aspect, I will add, you can ask Erica, the upcoming manager. He's there from like 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. and they close at 9 p.m. So I'm like calling him like, hey, why aren't you home yet? The kids want to go to bed now. So we do put in the hours. We just didn't. You're our partners. We don't want to inflate the numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Commissioner.
Can you scroll through the rest of your presentation?
Is there more?
It was after this budget thing, you had a couple of.
Yeah.
Just scroll through real fast.
I don't know what happened to the screen. I'm sorry.
Go back.
Or we can have a paper copy.
We do have
I
paper.
have it.
We have it.
No, so we have a paper copy of the PowerPoint, and then we have a detailed version of what we just talked to you about. We broke it down and wrote everything out for you to review if you need to. We did both things.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, under tab 3, Stafford Beverage, Jesse and Tiffany Stafford. Currently liquor store owner in Wilsonville, Oregon. North Wilsonville.
Is this the,
Is this Stafford Beverage?
is this the,
Yes, correct.
the store that we did the, expansion on?
Yes.
Yes.
Expansion
Yeah.
store, Michael.
There we go. Beautiful store.
Yeah.
Phase one.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Michael, I am impressed.
Yeah, and he was really nice to me when I went to the store.
I remember that expansion.
Oh, I'm the clicker.
I'll take it.
You clicking?
I'm clicking.
This is a separate than the PDF because they have a short video.
Yeah, well, Pamela's gone now.
And I'm glad to see you have your wife up here. She's going to talk, not you.
I hope so.
Okay.
So they
All right.
have the Wilsonville store.
I don't know if you can hear me okay?
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a
Hold
minute,
on.
wait a minute. Don't want to cheat you.
Thank you. We should be okay on time.
Go.
Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioners, and OLCC staff, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. For the record, I'm Jesse Stafford, and this is my wife of 14 years and business partner, Tiffany Stafford. We reside at 23764 3rd Street Northeast in Aurora, Oregon, 97002. Currently, I'm the managing partner of Stafford Beverage and have been in the alcohol industry for more than 20 years in roles of merchandising, sales leadership, and in the distribution channel. The last 3 years have been the most enjoyable as the agent at 1264 Wilsonville North.
We've created a short video to help showcase our current store and some of the key reasons as to why we're successful. Our commitment to customer service and educational selling experience, along with a desire to be different, have driven.
Hi guys, welcome in. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Tiffany.
We're the proud owners of Stafford Beverage here in North Wilsonville.
Mr. Manager Josh Arden.
Hello. Our store may be small, but we pack a punch.
Feel free to take a look around, and thanks so much for stopping by.
This year, our team managed to hit just under 3.8 million in our second fiscal year, and we're projecting to hit 4.3 this next year. Recently, we were recognized with the Top 5 Growth Award from the OLCC for 2018, and we currently have an outstanding rating. One of the things we're most proud of is our higher than average price per bottle sold, given our small store. Our average of $20.92 is a 19% premium to the OLCC and a 26% to Lancaster. With Lancaster generating twice the revenue as our current store, we feel there are two immediate opportunities for growth. First, we're going to look to increase underserved categories such as Scotch, gin, and domestic whiskey. Secondly, we're going to raise the average price per bottle sold to $18 to be more in line with the OLCC. If we can key in on these two main ideas, it has revenue growth potential of $1.75 million and could easily offset any potential revenue loss from the new store that opened on the south end of town.
Here we are at Lancaster Liquor. Due to the high traffic patterns, excess of 40 parking spaces, and high volume of the store, we feel it's best to expand in the current location rather than to relocate. Our plan is to take over the two adjoining spaces, which will more than double the size of the store, bringing it to 7,662 square feet. We've included an email from the property manager in the packet where she's committed to rent all three spaces to us. Our realtor has assured us that the property manager will finalize the letter of intent if appointed today. Here's a quick breakdown of the $250,000 we've budgeted for this expansion project.
Wow. As you can see, this is no small undertaking. In fact, the expansion will make Lancaster Liquor the largest size store in the OLCC's top 10. With an approximate 5,600 square foot retail space and a 2,000 square foot warehouse, this will help with our dire need of additional space in Wilsonville. This expansion will allow us to feed both stores by sharing inventory, cutting down on will calls, and store transfers. Our plan is to jump on the remodel as soon as possible and plan to complete by December 15th. You know what, we got a better idea. Why don't we just go inside and take a look for ourselves?
Welcome to Stafford Beverage at Lancaster Liquor, where our hours of operation will be Monday through Thursday, 9 to 9, Friday and Saturday, 9 to 10, and Sunday from 10 to 7. Our plan is to build upon the great store that Doug and Cindy have created and update it by making it a modern industrial showpiece. The store will be an expansive, clean, bright, fun, and safe place to shop. This remodel will include new KMDS register system, new security system, vintage industrial fixtures, a 25-door walk-in beer and wine cooler, LED lighting, reclaimed wood, concrete floors, open ceiling, new black shelving, and new category signs.
Our mission with this new space is to create the premier shopping experience in the Valley. Through our educated sales approach, the customers will be blown away with our selection, service, and quality of store experience. In order to round out the store, we plan to sell a wide array of related items, mixers, beer, wine, and most importantly, spirits. We feel that we can easily expand the liquor selection by a minimum of 300 to 400 new items. When I left my career at Southern Wine and Spirits, I set out to build a business my family
2
would be proud
minutes.
of. From day one, we wanted to teach our boys to appreciate the value of hard work and hopefully allow our daughter with special needs a fun and safe place to work. We're thankful to our team, the OLCC, and our families for their continued support.
We'd like to thank you for allowing us to present to you today and are grateful for this opportunity. Jesse grew up in nearby Kaiser and spent 15 years calling on restaurants and liquor stores, including 1157 in Salem. It's exciting to reopen some long-lasting friendships, which makes this opportunity feel like we are going home. Doug and Cindy Powell have been gracious to write us a letter of recommendation, which we greatly appreciate, and it's included in our packet. We ask that you appoint us today as the new agents for 1157 Salem East so we can build the next big thing in Oregon's liquor business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I have to say it first, Chair.
Go ahead.
My 7+ years as a commissioner is the best presentation. No disrespect to nobody else. But thank you so much for the time commitment and the value that you're going to receive and the money you can earn with this store. So we have a number of other candidates that are here today, and they're doing just as well as you. But I just want to throw my hat out to you and say you did a great job. And everything that we as commissioners need to hear, we heard.
Cool.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
Any other? There are two things.
Yes, sir.
One, I think the commissioner is completely correct. I think you set a different standard that anybody in the future who's looking to come in front of us, they'd probably be smart to do a little bit of video work on it. I was very impressed with it, to tell you the truth.
Thank you.
You know, to take your time. I've got one question that, just out of curiosity, on your supplemental application you wrote, have you ever been short in your accounts in your present or previous employments? If yes, give detail and attach additional sheets if needed. And you wrote, I overdrew my store account the first couple of weeks as my home equity line didn't fund in time and I failed to shift my personal money into the store account in time. There's no statutory violation that you have. Why did you feel compelled to write that in there?
I think just being honest. My whole life I've, done the right thing. At least I feel I've done the right thing by just being true to myself and true to my family and just being honest, to be completely 100%.
I have to tell you, I read all this stuff.
Yeah,
okay?
and I appreciate that.
I was really impressed with that.
Well, thank you, sir.
I like the fact that you were that honest, that there was no reason for you to do that. You just did it.
Yeah.
The only other question I have is, this is wonderful, and you're looking, you got a 250, it's probably closer to 300,000 by the time you get done, if you follow through.
Good.
I don't know if you're gonna get this or not, but if
Sure.
you get it, Brian knows, we're gonna watch and see what you actually come up with.
Sure, we can put a sheet
So
together.
the question really comes in is that, from a financial point of view, this really is contingent on your father or father-in-law helping you on it, right?
My father is loaning us a large sum of money, that's
I
correct.
saw that, I read that, so that's.
We do have a lot of money of our own, it's just some of it's tied up into 401Ks and things
Right.
that would take time to pull out.
Well,
In essence, it's
I'm,
easier.
On the financial statements, it was an overwhelming,
Right. There's a lot of money in there, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And last up, we have Jesse Bolander, Westmoreland Liquid. Jesse currently operates Lebanon and Eugene Northwest. Northwest. And they've been in front of you before.
One or two?
I remember.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
No, I remember.
They do. They currently operate, what did you say? Which one?
Lebanon,
Lebanon.
south of Salem, and Eugene.
And
Northwest
this was for,
Northwest.
Yep.
they were before us before for, do you remember what store that was?
The South Salem expansion store.
Expansion.
South Salem
Grants Pass.
expansion. And Grants Pass,
Grants
excuse
Pass,
me.
that's what it was that I remember you from. was it
Yes,
just
yeah,
you?
yeah.
That was just you for Grants Pass.
I'm not gonna, right, once they stop mumbling, then
And you guys are married?
so don't worry.
I'm just curious, trying to remember. I remember her hair, very curly.
Ready?
Good afternoon, Chairman Rosenbaum and Commissioners. My name is Jesse Bolander. This is my lovely wife, Tony. We're representing Westmoreland Liquid Incorporated today. I'd like to sincerely thank the OLCC and the Commission for hearing our presentation today regarding the Salem East Liquor Store. Doug and Cindy Powell have done a remarkable job with this store, and I appreciate their service, as I'm sure the OLCC does as well. A fun fact about Salem, the top industry in Salem is government, and this is the day and age that I totally explains why it's high volume, and I want to have a liquor store there, I think. You may remember I recently presented, as we were just talking about last November, the retail expansion project. That was a proposal for a new liquor store just east of this store. Today I will show you this corporation, and our experience will be the right choice for this area. I have personally been a resident of Oregon for over 30 years. You may recognize Tony. She recently presented for the Grants Pass store. We have 4 beautiful daughters, one serving our country and the U.S. Army, and the other 3 are in college. This has freed up our time to focus on more on the stores and expansion. I have some history in my family with OLCC. My grandfather became an OLCC agent in the early 1960s, and since that time, there are 5 generations in my family of Oregon liquor store owners. Westmoreland Liquid Incorporated was created in 2001. I'm the president, and I personally worked in Oregon liquor stores for over 30 years. I've been an OLCC agent for 20 years and was one of the youngest to ever be appointed. I was also one of the first agents to own 2 stores and have done so for 14 years. My wife also has a degree in business, minoring in accounting, along with extensive knowledge of this industry. I personally have negotiated numerous leases, store relocations, expansions, many at the same time and in separate locations. On a serious note, just recently a 24-year-old woman and her 5-year-old daughter were killed by a drunk driver in my county. Her 3-year-old survived the head-on collision, but now she's without a mother or a sister. And I'm disgusted at this senseless act, and we will be a part of the solution. Some of these partners I've worked with, and others I will work with in the future. We all have a responsibility in this industry to support this cause, and this corporation will do our part. Our mission statement is here. I won't read it due to time constraints. We'll move into pictures of Northwest Eugene Liquor Store. We're working on a remodel here right now. We're going to reconfigure the sales floor along with many other updates. We've already started that process. The Lebanon store was doubled in size in 2015, expanding the liquor inventory, and we added beer and wine. And currently, we just closed on a 6,500 square foot building in which we will be moving the store's location in 2020. This will add 2,800 square foot to the store's current space, and it will be more centrally located in Lebanon. Here's some pictures of the current store in East Salem. It needs to be expanded, remodeled, and managed by this company. We have the keys needed for such a high volume store and the quick takeover date of, I believe, September 2nd. Here's some more pictures of Salem East. As you can see, it desperately needs expansion in the beer and wine area. And the bottom right, we will lease that extra addition there. Here's some proposed pictures of what I have in mind for the expansion and remodel of the Salem East Liquor Store. A very attractive, well-lit storefront and complete modern interior. We will add many new liquor products and increase spacings. We will expand the walk-in cooler, wine shelving, allowing for a huge assortment of beer, wine, cider, and other beverages. And this will most include Oregon products, of course. Here I've listed out renovations which will take place. Please realize this list includes a full expansion and remodel to create a one-stop shop boutique liquor store.
2 minutes.
Just to be clear, I will expand the store from 3,725 square feet to 5,540 square foot. There is a vape shop currently utilizing the extra space that was proposed. That is available to us as well. When all is completed, we will launch a grand opening for this store. That concludes our PowerPoint presentation. Please continue on to the booklet for our business plan, floor layout, and site map. I've met and talked with the current staff at the store, and everyone wants to continue working. I'm extremely happy with this. They seem to do a fantastic job with the customers, and they know their duties. Projected sales are down due to the new expansion store, which just opened south of this location. This will be short-lived as we will combat that trend. With our own store expansion and remodel, sales will rebound quickly. Salem East will strive to have the best customer service around. We will always train employees to prevent sales to minors and intoxicated individuals. We will use multimedia for advertising along with many other options for this store. With this proposal, we will gain those lost sales to grow as a continued top 10 Oregon liquor store. I'm personally the owner of 2 liquor stores in Oregon. I'm applying for Westmoreland Liquid Incorporated to have ownership. I understand there may be questions associated with this. The retail expansion project does allow agents to own 3 stores. And from my research and discussion with OLCC, there's nothing from preventing this corporation to own 3. I would prefer to not give up one of my current stores, but I also do not want to miss this opportunity. This large volume store needs someone with my experience, and I look forward to the challenge and what the future holds with this appointment. And if all that's not enough, then maybe my sweet liquor socks for casual day will help. Thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions?
Perfect time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian, do we have all the PowerPoint presentations to bring into the back?
We can.
That would be great. Okay.
We'll just need to sign it on back there.
I will. Give me a second, Michael. I just need to put this down. We are now going to, thank you, Michael. I really appreciate that. We will, the commissioners will now go into executive session to deliberate on the agent selection pursuant to the authority of ORS 192. Authority of ORS 192660 sub 2 sub A. If there are members of the media present, representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representative of the media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions may be made in an executive session. We'll return to open session in this room. Thank you. Now we're in the jet. Okay, we're back in session, and before we make our decisions, Brian, I'm turning it over to you.
Chair Rosenbaum, thanks for all your time this morning. This isn't to embarrass anybody, but show appreciation for Doug and Cindy Powell at Salem East. They made it to just 20 years here. They started about $2.2 million in sale, close to $8 million today. So we have the $7 plaque with their certificate here. So I met Doug in the first probably 6 months of my career here. Well done. The store was already well done. He's cut from similar cloths from our backgrounds and just done an outstanding job. Why don't you hold that next to your husband? Because this is the backbone. Hope I didn't embarrass you too much. Good job. Say cheese. Cheese. A couple pictures. Let's say whiskey.
Photo bomb right there.
All right. Enough.
Our pleasure.
Great partner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we're going to make our selection, and before we do, I'm just not saying this. We had one hell of a discussion in there, and I use that term loosely. Thank you, everybody, for presenting. We were impressed seriously, we were. I'm just not saying that. This was a tough decision on both cases, so. Who's gonna read the first one?
Chair, in regards to Albany East Store 1103, I move to appoint Kirk Triance as the permanent agent of Store 1103, Albany East, effective September 2019.
Commissioner Curran.
Yes, sorry. Forgetting what I'm voting, yes. Thank you.
Commissioner Floyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Harper.
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas.
Yes.
Commissioner Pasick.
Yes.
Commissioner Reval.
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Commissioner.
In the Salem East Store 1157, I move to appoint Stafford Beveridge as the permanent manager of Store 117 Salem East, effective September 2019.
Commissioner Curran.
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd.
Yes.
Commissioner Harper.
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas.
Yes.
Commissioner Pasick.
Yes.
Commissioner Reval.
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Thank you all. It really was a tough decision. Where are we?
Thank you for all of the time.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's why.
Thank you. Great job. We're looking forward to seeing the store.
Congratulations. You set a different standard, that's good. Just do a good job. Good luck to you. Good job. Good luck to you. We're watching closely.
I'll send these pictures.
Shine that apple.
Shine that apple.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Good job, Jessica. Yeah, congratulations. Congratulations.
If you want that, then I was going to try to figure out where we are in the world here.
Yeah.
I want all of it. Yes.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Where were you? Yes. Forever.
It's so hard to
I'm sitting there yesterday. Michael, we're going to be dying in 2 minutes. Oh, that, I'm
Once you
good.
take it there, always open it up and it's just so much easier. Then look here, you can make comments.
Yes.
You know,
Oh my
up
God.
here,
Yep.
you can make comments, and then wherever you touch that note,
I know.
Look out.
I agree with
Now,
you.
now I'm not even speaking.
It is.
Because you won't be doing that.
I won't be going, wait, let me scroll down 300 pages to see you there, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you.
well, you showed me that, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it would have been, I'm hoping that maybe she comes in with maybe in these place that she can put someplace where I hadn't thought of it previously and make it into that. This is never gonna be upstate.
Okay, guys.
When I was cut, I'm like, okay, and he was the right rider for the right horse. And his horse riding, did you know that he was raised on a?
I didn't know that.
On a, he was raised on a horse farm for, why am I thinking of it.
Equestrians
No,
or jockeys?
Yeah, racehorses.
Wow.
They raised racehorses, and he was forced to, as a child, ride the horses, and he said like below freezing weather in upstate New York.
Michael?
So when he's telling me that.
You're up.
Thank you.
That analogy, and I'm like,
I've revised my remarks from good morning to good afternoon. Chair Rosenbaum, members of the commission. I'm Michael Shine, a case presenter with AP&P, the Administrative Policy and Process Unit. And I'm here to present settlement for ratification. First, I would present 10 stipulated alcohol settlements for ratification as stated in the minutes of the meeting.
Any questions? None? Well, I do. So I'm looking at the policy and procedures, settlement negotiation for contested cases, dated 2/26/15. Steve, you been here that long?
When now? Sorry, I was looking at some numbers, Mr. Chair.
That's okay. It's a citation of authority is ORS 183.417 sub 3. States that an informal disposition may be made of any contested case by stipulation, agreed settlement, consent order, or default. Going on with this policy and procedure, it says case presenter, and under number 2, if a licensee or service permittee requests a hearing on a fast-track violation, the case presenter has discretion to provide a 30% reduction of the standard sanction without seeking approval from the public safety director. So I'm going through all 10 of these cases, and in the overwhelming majority of them, there's a 30% reduction right off the bat. So if I look at number 2, Redbone LLC, I can understand maybe why there would be an equivalent of a 30% reduction of the standard sanction. But if I look at number 7, no, I'm sorry, number 7, yeah, Portland Food Mart. Look at the violations under this thing. The policy and procedure says that you can look at it, a case settlement in which commission may choose a non-standard settlement negotiation for contested cases. Additional evidence has come to light since the violation was first charged, the ongoing risk to public safety associated with the premises, whether the violation involved injury or threat or injury to patrons, goes on and on. How, and maybe, Michael, you're not the right one to do this, but how in God's name can we look at number 7 and talk about a 30% reduction off the bat? Why not just give them the, it's subjective. Why not just give them the penalty? Why, what grounds is there to reduce it by 30%?
Chair Rosenbaum, members of the commission, there are certain benefits of settlement. I mean, if you look at our judicial system in the state of Oregon from 2018, statewide, you'll find that 1.6% of all the cases filed, and that's hundreds of thousands of cases, are actually resolved through trial. Most cases are resolved through settlement. 3.3% of felony charges are resolved through trial. Most are plea bargained. And there are a lot of reasons for that. If you look at the reasons for settlement within our unit, you know, one of the great benefits is a speedy resolution of the case that does place a certain experience rating, compliance history on the licensee or permittee, and we get the licensee or permittee to acknowledge the violation, concede to it, it becomes part of their compliance history with us, and so that's a great benefit. And you know, we had a case last year, I'll give you an example, black market distribution, where the settlement was refused. And I'm not arguing with the policy behind that. That was perfectly within the power of this commission. That's what it means, that you have the power to ratify or not ratify settlements. But you have to look at the practical consequences. In that particular case, that was August 2018. We could have had 9 Category 3s and 1 Category 1 on that licensee's record. Instead, the case then consumed hundreds of man hours or person hours working here on this. We got it tried April to May of this year. It's been briefed, including Department of Justice briefing on constitutional challenges to our rules in July of 2019. It's now before an administrative law judge. We expect, we hope, a decision, a proposed order in September or October of this year. Then we'll be able to get it back to you in December or January 2020 perhaps. And so as you can see, there's a lot of benefit to speedy resolution. With respect to other benefits of
That was a
settlement,
terrible example of, and I'm not fighting with you, but that's a terrible example of what I'm asking you to respond to. I mean, I'm talking more to my fellow commission members than I am to you, obviously, at this
Yeah.
point. But just look at number 7, the Portland Food
well,
Mart.
I'm getting to that, but I wanted to put it in the context of the benefits of settlement, which is really important. So with respect to number 7, that's a terrible case. Bad stuff happened, no question about it. This involves a convenience store near a high school in Portland that had a rogue employee. That clerk was smoking marijuana both on the premises and in the parking lot behind the premises with high school students. It came to our attention on the report of a parent. We very promptly got an inspector out to the premises. The inspector questioned and obtained a partial admission from this clerk, trying to limit it very much. Requested video. Request is not exactly the word because it's mandatory under our rules. And then the video suddenly disappeared, again, by the clerk. So they were charged with that as well, and that's Category 2. But the primary instance of the marijuana consumption on premises was charged several times, charged in the first charge and the second charge, but those are all Category 3s under our rules. You can aggravate it for the involvement of juveniles. You can aggravate it for repeated, but each aggravation under our rules only adds 2 days. So what it ended up with, when you add up the amounts that are specified by our rules, is a 78-day suspension or a $12,870 civil penalty. Now, at that point, what's the incentive for the licensee to reach a settlement? You got to realize we're dealing with the licensee, not this clerk. The clerk was charged criminally, and our last understanding has fled the state. So we're not dealing with the clerk, we're dealing with the licensee. The licensee had that potential penalty as a result of having this bad employee doing these bad things at the premises. So he has an incentive to settle if we can offer him a reduction. And so the final settlement is a $9,405 civil penalty or a 57-day suspension. It's not really that far off the mark of what the total penalty could be, and we know from, or at least we've been informed by his attorney, that he's not going to be able to afford the penalty and it's going to serve the suspension. So we're talking about a convenience store that for 57 days is not going to be able to sell alcoholic beverages, which is a major part of the business of a convenience store. So we maintain that we have obtained a substantial penalty that he is going to feel, and as a result of that, we believe that he is going to be much more diligent about what his employees do, so we feel we've achieved compliance. And at the same time, this was set for hearing, and the other alternative is to go to hearing where we have certain difficulties. You know, hearing always involves risk. And I don't like going too far into exactly what the risks are, but for example, one difficulty is getting juveniles in there to testify who are under the control of their parents, and also putting them through that experience, which is not a pleasant experience, and cross-examination and all that. And if we can obtain a reasonable resolution that's close to the penalty that we feel that the licensee is going to feel, then we think it's a win-win all around. So that's why we've got this
But-
result here.
Listen, I'm making an issue of this because, and again, you're sitting up here, so I have to talk to you, but I'm talking to the commission. You forgot something that's very germane to this case. There was an illegal gambling machine in that facility. There's no way in hell that licensee did not know that he had an illegal gambling machine on his premises. There's no way in hell that licensee did not know most of the stuff that was going on in there. I mean, unless he was never in his shop and you know, this guy knew something that was going on. If he can pay $9,000, he can pay 12. There are cases where the 30% reduction should not be done. It just should not be done. Every single one of these, no matter what it is a 30% reduction.
Chair, I have to step in and say, that is the incentive, though, that they're getting to settle. If they don't have an incentive to settle, then they'll say, "We'll roll our dice at hearing."
And
then the resources that goes
And
to
my
them.
point is that do you think that the difference between 9,000 and 12,000
I think
is
that
gonna
there-
make that much of a difference?
Yes, I do. I do think that there will be a lot more people who say, this is their incentive to take an action and get, I do think that there'll be a lot more people who say, might as well try it at a hearing and see what happens. We have nothing to lose.
And I can agree with you on that point, because I made a distinction between number 2
Yes.
and number 7. In number 2, I can readily see a 30% reduction, and it should be done. But there's cases over here where that 30% reduction is done, and there's really no need to do it, at least in my mind.
Right. I disagree. I think that that's the way that the system works. It's similar to how the criminal justice system works, where there has to be plea deals. I know many times I represent clients who will say, if you're not going to give me a deal, for some reason, saying you only have to plead guilty to harassment and we'll dismiss the disorderly conduct, makes all the world in getting a case settled, even though we know that they were guilty of both. And the facts are very, very, I mean, they're there, but it's the way that it's an incentive that the system works to get through cases and handle them and move forward in an efficient way without being too punitive. And it's also, this is another thing, they should be giving, I believe that they should be given that incentive if they're willing to come clean, and not come clean, but if they're willing to say, we're gonna save you the resources, we're going to admit to this, we're gonna put it on our record, that's worth something. That's a value to our agency to have somebody step up and say, we will accept this. And I believe for that, there should be an exchange of some consideration for value and not having to litigate that.
We're not that far off. In another life of mine, a long time ago, I was a U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney. I plea bargained more cases than you can imagine, because that was part of the system, and the system would break down if you didn't do it.
Yes.
But there was, every once in a while, we never plea bargained because the case demanded that it go to trial. And when you get a case like this, you know, or something similar to that, the automatic 30% shouldn't be in there. I mean, I don't think we're that far apart. I don't disagree. I understand the system has to work.
Right.
But it shouldn't be done across the board. There should be some considerations where something is so egregious that you just shouldn't give the 30% reduction. as a matter of rule, we're just giving it to just everybody. There's no distinction on it.
One of the
So-
difficulties, Mr. Chairman, is for the case presenters to uniformly determine when and when not to give the 30%. If there's discretion kind of thrown back, I mean, we know that that's our guideline, that's what we can provide, and we do it uniformly in an effort to treat all licensees equally. The other thing I would mention is that in connection with that gambling device, that was charged at the second level. So that substantially added to the licensee's penalty. That was a 30-day or $49.50 violation that was then reduced the 30% as you've indicated to a 21%, or excuse me, 21-day or the concurrent value. I think it's 3,600 something like that. Was added because of the gambling device. Now, gambling device, I mean, it sounds significant. It was actually a pretty crude kind of thing. It wasn't like the lotto machine that you expect to see. It was this box that you put quarters into and an arm pushed stuff off to the side, and if you got something of value that was more than what you put into it, you won something. But Lotto, we did collaborate. Our inspector contacted a Lotto police officer who came and looked at it and verified to us that it was considered a gambling device under the law, and so the charge was brought accordingly. And yes, I think you're absolutely right. The licensee knew it was there.
Sure he did.
And there's no doubt about that.
So would you just tell us on number 5, Bambusa Lake Oswego, why the 30% wasn't given? I think I got that one right.
This is.
I just want to get your thinking.
Yeah, this is a case in which there were 2 charges, and one was it was a part of a minor decoy operation. And I think all the commissioners are familiar with that. I can explain it further if you want. But anyway, it was a sale to a minor, and then also it was discovered that 2 employees were working without a service permit. And the premises, or all our licensees, when they have a sale to minor, are given an option under our rules to install age verification equipment. And if they are willing to do that and install it on all their cash registers, all their points of sale at the premises, then they get a one-time credit equal to the amount of the basic fine or suspension for the sale to the minor decoy at the first level. So they get $1,650 off of their penalty. Or 10 days off of their suspension time. And the licensee here elected that. When they have elected it, they're required to use it. And if they don't use it in the future, then it becomes an aggravation to their penalty. If they have a future sale to a minor decoy and they haven't used the age verification equipment, then there's 2 days added on because it's an aggravating factor in that next violation. In this case, so they're given the option to do that, and they elected it. And you'll notice the penalty is written in the alternative depending on whether they've got it installed or not. And that's because the settlement agreement was written before the time that they had in which to put that in. For your information, it has been verified by the inspector that they did install age verification equipment that meets all our standards, and so they're given a credit towards their fine or suspension. So basically they're left paying the fine and suspension in connection with the other violation. The other violation was aggravated because there were 2 employees involved. More than one is an aggravating factor. And so they were in fact given the discount, but then it also went up again on the other side. So I think that's where you're seeing they've got maybe a little more than you expected when they're giving the discount, but they were given the discount, and then there was the aggravation. We never discount days assigned for aggravation. We only discount the standard penalty.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's take them all at once.
Chair?
I made my point.
I move to ratify the 10 alcohol stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harper?
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas?
Yes.
Commissioner Palcic?
Yes.
Commissioner Wall?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum, members of the commission, I would move for ratification of the 9 marijuana violation stipulated settlement agreements that are before you in the agenda.
Any questions? I only have one on Rose City. It's MCTSA Management. This was under the new $10,000 violation.
Chair Rosenbaum, this was by agreement of the parties as part of a settlement agreement. The licensee accepted the new higher level fine in lieu of a portion of what would otherwise have been a mandatory suspension. So we don't yet have the rules in place implementing the statutory changes that allow us to impose a $10,000 civil penalty for a single violation. But with the approval of Department of Justice, we were given the authority to use that tool as part of settlement negotiations if a licensee was willing to go that route. So that is why the $10,000 penalty fine appears in connection with this matter.
The reason I asked that, it says there's a mandatory 30-day suspension and the new penalty authority of $10,000 per violation. The second agreement is another 30-day suspension. So at least in the synopsis, it says that, unless I'm reading it wrong, it says that you have a mandatory 30-day suspension plus $10,000. But the way that the penalty is in this case is the $10,000, no mandatory suspension.
Yeah, and the synopsis is no part of the actual settlement agreement, and I apologize if it's ambiguous the way it's written. Let me clarify what the settlement agreement provided for. It was a mandatory 30-day suspension for one of the Category 1s, and then the other Category 1 was a 30-day suspension or payment of $10,000, not and. The and that appears in the synopsis is just kind of joining the sentence part that explains that the new penalty authority of $10,000 would apply by agreement of the parties. And then it says to permit the licensee to pay a civil penalty of $10,000 in lieu of the second
Right.
violation's 30-day suspension.
Yeah, there's a difference between the, as was pointed out.
Yeah.
Chair, I have a question. So what if the licensee would have proposed, hey, I'll pay $6,000 and went to DOJ to make this request? Would that have been on it?
it's not, it's not the licensee who goes to DOJ. We consulted with DOJ because they're our counsel in connection with this. So they would have come to us with it. And, you know, it's always a difficult kind of guessing game to say, what if it had been that versus this, because this is the product of a negotiated settlement process. My sense is that would, you know, that these were sufficiently serious violations, that probably would not have been, you know, satisfactory to all the parties. You know, with a Category 1 settlement, it's reviewed and approved at the Director of AP&P, the Director of Statewide Director of Public Safety, Senior Director of Compliance, you know, all the way through the Executive Director level. So there's a lot of review, and I don't think that would have cut the mustard, as they say.
I mean, what does a 30-day suspension look like for a processor?
It has teeth. You know, this is one of the headaches of the marijuana, you know, grappling with regulating marijuana, is that it doesn't necessarily carry over the way it does with alcohol.
Right.
So we've seen with different kinds of licensees, suspensions have varying effects. But certainly with a processor, they can't transfer in or out, which is one of the primary issues, or one of the primary privileges, I should say, that's suspended, and that's the lifeblood of their business. So they can't access their metric. They can't really make stuff if they're unable to transfer product from one form to another that they would have to enter into metric, and so it has a substantial effect on their ongoing operation, just as it would with a retailer.
You know, many times minority decisions in the Supreme Court basically become majority decisions after 5 or 10 years. So in light of that statement, number 2, SMW Agriculture LLC, I don't know how big of an operation this is. Probably decent size. They failed to do some stuff in the metric system. They were fined $1,980. They either have a 10-day suspension or a civil penalty of $1,650 after you have your 30-day suspension, a 30% reduction on the standard price. So I'm just curious, I'm not going to get an answer to that question, but I wonder how much of a detriment that is with maybe a could be a $50 million company. You got a $1,650 fine that was 30% reduced. Maybe my opinion will become the majority after another 2 years of me bringing this stuff up. I'm not sure I will, but you know, maybe I'd like to know the size of. Is it possible to get to know the size of some of these operations? No. You have none of that.
It's not, Chair Rosenbaum, this is Kelly Rout, Director of AP&P. That's not information that's communicated in the report that we receive and is not necessarily germane to the violation. So that's not information that we would have. Nor do we have information about how much money they're making.
Maybe get a good sense by Googling the company. I don't know, but.
Well, maybe we should do that. Maybe I'm going to start doing that just to bring it up to my commission members. Clerk will take the roll.
Need a motion.
Oh, I need a motion, sorry.
Chair, I move to ratify the 9 marijuana stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harper?
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas?
Yep.
Commissioner Pasick?
Yes.
Commissioner Reval?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Thank you.
Michael, thank you. You do a great job. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Especially for putting up with me. Okay, what do we got? We got rules. Emily and Kelly. Kelly too? Are you up here? I think you are, but
Presenting a part of it.
Good afternoon, Chair Rosenbaum and fellow commissioners. For the record, my name is Emily Febles, and I'm the OLCC Rules Coordinator. Today I have 2 initial actions and 1 temporary action for your consideration. Initial action 1, during the 2019 Oregon legislative session, the Oregon legislature made changes to the Oregon Liquor Control Act that will require amendments to OLCC's administrative rules. This rulemaking action will permit staff to initiate responsive rulemaking to implement the 2019 amendments. The concepts requiring rulemaking are as follows. Alcohol fee adjustments from Senate Bill 246 and 248. Acceptable identification from House Bill 3239. Malt beverage manufacturing and labeling rules from Senate Bill 590. And off-site storage for alcohol for airlines from Senate Bill 590. With that said, I'm happy to answer any questions. You'll find the motion language under tab A.
any questions? No?
Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking on these matters and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Any further discussion?
Commissioner Kern?
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harper?
Yes.
Commissioner Molinas?
Yes.
Commissioner Pasek?
Yes.
Commissioner Ravel?
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Initial action 2, this rulemaking package addresses both the changes made during the legislative session and technical issues that have arisen during the management of the bottle bill program. This rulemaking action will permit staff to initiate responsive rulemaking to make the necessary changes. Concepts requiring rulemaking are as follows. From Senate Bill 93, will distinguish between full-service redemption centers and dealer redemption centers and create standards for dealer redemption centers, and requires OLCC to include additional information in approval orders. Senate Bill 247 requires redemption centers to register with the OLCC and pay a $3,000 fee for each redemption center. It also defines kombucha and hard seltzer and designates these beverages as redeemable. Senate Bill 590 redefines the space that a dealer occupies for the purposes of obligations to redeem beverage containers. With that said, I'm happy to answer any questions, and you'll find the motion language under tab B.
Chair, I have a quick question in regards to the $3,000 fee. What is the current fee today?
0.
Yes, 0.
So we're going from 0 to $3,000, and from my understanding, how do you get a redemption center?
Chair Rosenbaum, Commissioner Harper. For the record, this is Kelly Rout, Director of AP&P. We have standards set out in statute and rule to apply for a redemption center. There is currently one entity in the state that operates redemption centers. They apply with us for a particular location and provide information that shows that that will provide a convenient service to the public. We make sure that all of those requirements are met, and we will either approve or move to deny the redemption center. But I believe there are dozens of redemption centers in the state now.
So can redemption centers be owned by citizens of the state of Oregon versus the corporations that own them now?
It is possible if they submit an application and meet the requirements.
So we've had the large corporations fined because they were not using redemption centers, or they were not taking cans in their bottles in their location of business. So you're sharing with me that if I can find a place, I want to call it a redemption center, I'm going to collect the cans, and I need $3,000, I can start a small business.
Commissioner Harper, that's correct. For a private citizen, it might be difficult to make a return on that investment just because you need to be able to have the agreements to pick up the containers, because otherwise you're just paying people out 10 cents and you're not getting anything in return. So, yeah.
So, with this new requirement, so some state legislators found that these big companies own these redemption centers, and we're just gonna figure out how to get $3,000 out of them, right?
Commissioner Harper, so there is one entity that operates, the redemption centers are those standalone businesses. They're not the collections within the stores. The fees are to actually be able to, for OLCC to manage the program. So, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
So I'll just add to this. They offered to do this to finance a position to work with Becky on compliance for the Redemption Center program. A nonprofit primarily controls all of the contracts that they come forward with. They wanted to be able to provide resource for us to do contract amendments, all of the work that Becky's doing to move that forward. We said we wouldn't take money directly from them, so they came back and supported a bill that charged a fee. They came to us.
It's not as much of a business as it is a community service, kind of the recycling thing. I don't think they make any money out of it. Well, it's a long story.
Like the OLCC of redemption.
Yeah.
We need a motion.
Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking on these matters and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff discretion on the 2019 bottle bill package.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harper,
Yes.
Commissioner Melides,
Yes.
Commissioner Pasick,
Yes.
Commissioner Revolt,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Okay, I'm now going to turn it over to Kelly to give you a brief overview of the temporary rule action and to answer any questions about it that you may have.
Thank you. Again, this is Kelly Rout, Director of AP&P. As you know, Senate Bill 218 directed OLCC to refuse to issue production licenses for an amount of time that the Commission determines necessary.
Do we ever know that?
Yeah. The main purpose of the rules before you today is to describe how OLCC will process producer applications submitted prior to June 15th, 2018, and the timelines for applicants to complete the process. As directed by the legislation, OLCC will inactivate producer applications submitted after June 15th, 2018, and will inactivate applications in which a land use compatibility statement was not timely filed. We will also no longer allow changes of ownership or location to pending applications. What will be allowed by statute are changes of ownership and changes of location to existing licenses and, of course, license renewals. So what you have before you is the process for us to process for these applications in order to get them either licensed or inactivated. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the rules.
Boy, do we have enough discussion on this, huh?
I called her. She
We've been
walked me
discussing
through it.
it.
It was very helpful. So thank you, Kelly, for that.
Kelly does a great job. Both of you do. Thank you. I need a motion.
Chair, I move to temporarily adopt OAR 845-025-1131 and 845-025-1132, effective September 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, and to initiate rulemaking on this matter and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harper,
Yes.
Commissioner Melides,
Yes.
Commissioner Pasick,
Yes.
Commissioner Revolt,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Well, before, we've had a full day. Steve, any comments you want?
No, long day. Well,
You've
the only
been
thing is,
quiet.
you know, and I have been quiet. You've done quite well amongst yourselves today. Thank you. I do think that listening to her, I continued to hear back from our partners as we were out there. I think we definitely had the opportunity to open up some lines of communication in the wine industry. I think the benefit of us doing that was apparent by the time we got to the north, and clearly is apparent, I think, in the thought process of both legislators and amongst the industry, north and south. So hopefully that'll help make our actions that we have to do concerning wine legislation easier. So thanks for getting out and traveling those miles to make that happen. I think it had a really palatable benefit for the debate that's going on around wine and policy. There's just no question about that. A lot of challenges in front of us. I'll just point out why, Mr. Chairman, you were pointing on sanctions of APMP. Their caseload is growing dramatically, and I would have raised that point on their caseload. This is something we're going to have to look at probably as we move towards February and the upcoming session. We may come before you with a couple of recommendations that actually add to that. Right now, it would sort of subtract from the licensing caseload and move it over to APMP's caseload if we don't allow the change of ownership
I'm
of.
not sure I'm following that, are you?
Here we go. If we don't allow the change, the issue at the Portland hearing that the gentleman in the back of the room raised about the equity of allowing people who are under penalty to change their ownership and sell their business before they go out. We're debating that internally, but there's not just a caseload problem with doing settlements and the incentive for settlements, but there's also sort of the equity question between, I think some of you have made the point at times about those in line that can come in and run a business cleanly without having those penalties. So it was an issue legislators raised when 218 was debated, so we're taking a look at that. That'll put some more pressure on APMP. So some of the timing of doing changes, if you were to consider them, are important to the administration there. But I wanted to point out how their growing caseload is moving up. It's moved, just to give you a quick idea, from 2017, it was 533 cases, 2018, 729, 2019, we're projecting 800. They have 548 open cases right now. We have 270 some violations yet to be assigned. They're carrying about a caseload of 50 to 60 cases each amongst the 5 folks.
How many people do we have in the new budget there?
We added in, we got 1 additional person. That person is not hired yet, so that'll be the 6th position inside there. But even with that, we still have in process coming from public safety over, I think we got about another 290 that haven't even moved to be the unassigned amount. So they are getting a heck of a caseload. So as we think about these things, there's the policy debate we need to have to do the right thing on sanctions and policy. There's also, we need to think about how we administer it and how much delay we put in our own caseload assignment when we make those decisions. So. And we'll probably be coming in front of you with maybe some of those ideas that add to that caseload because of policy. Subtract from one line over on licensing because they do the processing of the change of ownership. They do the processing of those when we allow that to happen during settlements. So we're working on that internally. I'm not sure that we'll make that recommendation to you. We're on both sides of that internally here, but that may be something that comes forward. Good note, I wanted to remind commissioners that we are going to be hosting the Western Governors National Conference of State Liquor Administrators the 8th, 9th, and 10th of September. So you'll all be welcome to join in on that. Hopefully Chairman Rosenbaum will give us a few words to kick that off in the morning. I asked him about it, but I haven't yet got it in his schedule. Because I haven't followed up, sir. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, before we go.
Yeah.
If I could have the floor for
Of
just
course.
a shameless plug here. This is a local paper from Central Oregon, Source Weekly. They put out each year the best of Central Oregon, and I just want to congratulate, on, I guess, liquor stores, 3rd Street in Bend was best of, and Ora Grown for best retail. So hats off to them on both that. They had the award ceremony last night, and it was loads of fun to attend that, and I just wanted to share that with everybody.
You
Little
learned,
sunshine.
Yeah, that's good. Michael,